Fire for your mind. Culture clinician. Hit that like button and share this stream if you're not a beta male.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
Oh my God.
Cody, go, run. Oh. Five is a lot, right? I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting gang violence? All right, we're going to get started, everybody. We're going to get started. You know how it works. Question and answer. Thank you to Lane from YRE5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting gang violence? Great. All right, we're going to get started, everybody. 10 years. Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
This morning I can tell you that we have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle.
Or the good, bad, and ugly for why Charlie Kirk was such a controversial figure. He was seen as a pariah by some, a hero by others, and the devil in social media. But have the world become blinded by confirmation bias and nefarious agendas that seek to divide us? Join me live.
Things you have an appetite for. The danger in it is that you pigeonhole yourself and you become narrow and you only have information from one side. If you believe that Charlie was just this great man of God and he is a martyr, you have no clue what these other people could be thinking about. So the person who says, how can you celebrate this man? How can you lift up this man? Well, you don't understand how much he was doing good on college campuses and the gospel was being preached. And it's not because people want to lift up somebody that's evil. It's just that they have had a different encounter and experience than you. Right. So empathy says, like, let me put myself in your shoes so that I can see things from your vantage point so I don't judge something incorrectly.
When we slow down to listen to why people feel the way they do, even if you disagree, when you listen to why, it does something in your heart to say, okay, I don't agree with you, but I understand from your point of view what you're talking about. Right. It allows us to have compassion and empathy toward one another.
I want to give Charlie some credit here, okay? Back in 2019, Charlie Kirk helped a lot of young blacks get to the White House. He changed a lot of their lives. A lot of them never imagined going to the White House, and Charlie helped hundreds of young black boys and girls go to the White House. Charlie, thank you for that.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, man.
So for people who want to call Charlie a racist, kiss my black ass, excuse my language. Charlie Kirk is not a racist.
I love this guy, I'll tell you. And, you know, by the way, I have some New York Times reporters for you to talk to.
I'll talk to them.
No,
did Jesus regard a Charlie Kirk?
Hit that like button and share this stream if you're not a beta male. Fire! Kosher clinician. Aside to become the kosher clinician, the story and the war cry behind the kosher clinician was similar to some of the struggles and the things that I've been through as a man. And some of you men are still going through that right now. There's a philosophical term called an existentialist crisis. Basically what that means is that you begin to ask yourself the question, why am I existing? What is the purpose of my existence? And I think that's the story of a lot of men that have not been more or less raised or under the tutelage of masculine men. One of the great indictments, guys, about the manosphere is that people assert and assume that the manosphere preaches misogyny and hate. But the manosphere is not responsible and was created a silo as the front to women or black women. But the manosphere was responsible for the pain and suffering that many black men were going through and continue to go through as we speak now. Once again, Jericho, we are going through our existential crisis. Our country is in trouble. Some of you are in trouble, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And you're not ready to move to higher ground until you get the requisite help that's going to help you become the better version of yourself.
Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician.
All right. There it is. All right. Now hit it for me.
And it ain't culture. 7 in hell is what they taught you. We'll put them, and you can back up in young dose. Kosher. Clinician.
All right, stop that. All I want you to say is, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. Say that first, okay?
All right.
All right, you ready?
Start over?
Yeah, start it.
No. Okay, if it ain't 7, it ain't culture, and...
If it ain't 7, it ain't culture.
Okay.
Heaven and hell is what they taught you.
Okay, perfect. Do that again, but give me a little attitude. If it ain't 7, it ain't culture.
All right.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
And action.
Young heads picking back up in young dolphin. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician. That was cool.
If it ain't 7, it ain't culture. Heaven and hell, that's what they taught you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up in young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Asking fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
If you guys can hear me, if you guys can hear me, hit 1. Hit 1 if you can hear me. Hit 1, guys, if you can hear me loud and clear. Hit 1 if you can hear me. We're going to have a good show on today, guys. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of Charlie Kirk. And this show holds dear to me because there are some sentimental talking points that's been reverberated by my dear friend, Dr. Thunder, as he talks about some of the nuances of what some would call conservatism, but also the dangers of liberalism in this current milieu that we live in. So we're going to have a good show on today. Dr. Thunder is going to challenge me. I'm going to challenge him in a good way. And we're going to look at the evidence, and we're going to explore the evidence and look at all the nuance around Charlie Kirk. Guys, share this stream, please. Share this stream. Share this stream. This stream is for intelligent, open-minded people. If you're not intelligent and open-minded, please abort left. You don't need to be part of it. You're not going to be open-minded and try to hear what we're talking about. But this is going to be a very cogent conversation for the open-minded. We're going to look at things from all parameters, as Dr. Dunn is very analytical as well as myself. And we're going to look at all the nuances to this current conversation with Charlie Kirk and why so many hate Charlie Kirk and why so many like Charlie Kirk, and also those that tried to demonize Charlie Kirk. Get your pen and paper ready, guys, as I bring it to you live from the great state of the Union, the Tar Heel State. We're going to have a good show today. Share this stream, be open-minded, as Dr. Thunder and I bring some kosher fire for your mind. Hold tight. "15 minutes after the hour of 1 o'clock. Bringing to you live from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State, once again. Share this stream, guys. We're going to have a good show. And we're going to explore this evidence around this Charlie Kirk fiasco. Have your minds open and have your pens and paper ready. Let's go. Bringing it to you live once again from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State, where the topography is serene, pristine, and verdant green, where every day is Father's Day, and where manhood is part of hills and valleys, victories and failures, and whereas men, we don't agree on all things or ideologies, but tonight we come together as allies of a common cause, only to dissipate once the crisis is over. Now listen, I'm about to drop some fire for your mind. But before I drop that fire, let's explore why we are doing the Manhood Chronicles. Greetings. This is another topic of the Kosher Clinician that might be sensitive to some viewers. If you are sensitive to the topic at hand or the title provided in the show, please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Viewer discretion is advised. All right, we about to start. I got my man in the house, Dr. Thunder in the house. I call him the musical savant, and the intellectual at the same time. And can you hear me, Doc? Can you hear me, brother? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What's happening, man?
Man, thank you for tuning in, man. And I thought about this because you and I have had these conversations in the past. There are so many angles to look at this fiasco with Charlie Kirk, but the most damning thing about Charlie Kirk is that the man lost his life. And regardless of your political views, regardless of your sentiment towards Charlie Kirk did not deserve to lose his life. Now, prepare that talking point. Were there some things that Charlie Kirk said that were perhaps either spoken out of ignorance, was projected into the universe, because maybe he meant well, but, he spoke out of ignorance because, let's be real, Paul was deleting a lot of Christians, and he thought he was doing good until he saw the light. And one of the things, Doc, you and I talked about in the past a lot of times we know the all left is crazy. We know they're crazy. They're demonic. But some conservatives can be in the spectrum of moderate, conservative, but then extremely conservative, like Nick Fuentes, which is white supremacy. I'm dressed in a red cloak. So I want you to give me your insight about this Charlie Kirk situation. We're gonna look at some subtitles. We're gonna break this thing down. And what's been the most telling thing about Charlie Kirk's death, from your opinion, and also how the powers to be either exonerate him or minimize the things that he went through.
So R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. I did not agree with everything he said. I had serious disagreements with many things that he said.
Right.
But I also agreed with things that he said.
Yes, sir. Same here.
Pro-family, pro-life, a Christian guy, actually quite biblically knowledgeable. And I mean, so look, we have different takes on a number of things. And I think that he was ignorant about a number of things and probably spoke with ignorance. A lot of folks are making the assessment that he knew what he was doing was spreading propaganda.
Right.
He knew it was misinformation and disinformation, and he didn't care. And then others are saying because supposedly he didn't care, and that he was that his heart was filled of hate, and he got what he deserved. That's what many folks, there's a sort of spectrum of things.
Yes,
I've
sir.
heard people try to thread the needle and say, well, I didn't, he said a lot of things that I had a lot of issues with, but you can kind of understand why somebody would want to take him out.
Right.
Right. So they'll try to thread the needle that way.
Yes, sir.
I think that's problematic, because in a society, an open society where you're going to have different views, different ideologies, different approaches to communicating information, different cultural context. There's going to tend to be things that are, as it were, lost in translation. And sometimes it's going to be hard for people to understand clearly what it is that you mean.
Yes.
I don't know that it is particularly beneficial to make assessments about people because they are saying things that you disagree with, assessments about the state of their soul, stuff about, them being, evil incarnate, or any of the rest of that, or, Hitler-esque, or any of that kind of stuff. I don't know how that is particularly helpful. I think that what's better would be to take some of the things that he said and actually address issues.
Right.
Address, some of the problems with many of the things that he said. Now, that's something that I've done, prior to all this stuff happened, months ago. I have looked at some of the things that he said, and I've been critical of what I call bootstrap bro pathology.
Yes, sir. We're going to talk about it. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so that is my primary issue.
Right.
In those Black conservatives in particular, that though certain things have been debunked, like, for instance, affirmative action, we know that was largely white women benefiting,
right,
84%, and DEI, 76%, white women benefiting,
right.
But those that continue to point at these things after it's been soundly debunked, that in particular Black men were not substantial beneficiaries, of these programs, and then also citing things like 13% of the population red rumming 50%, or committing the 50% of the red rums.
Right.
All of this stuff has been soundly debunked over and over, but for them to continue to use those talking points, shout out to my man, Keep It 100. I think that the reason that they're doing that is because they don't like ninjas.
Right.
It's not because there is a philosophy or a politic that they believe Black people have rejected, and they wish they would embrace that because, look, these bootstraps work. No, it's not that. It's because they just don't like ninjas. Now, it's possible, and I'm, although I don't call myself a conservative or a Republican,
right,
there's many things that I agree with as far as
Right.
conservative. I'm probably more conservative than I am liberal.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Right,
a
right,
third
right.
party, kind of person.
Right.
But look, when it has been disproven a particular perspective, and you keep with it, you keep doing that, you keep using the same propaganda, you keep spreading this misinformation, it's misinformation, it's disinformation, it's a problem. It seems to show me that it's more important to you to cozy up to the dominant society,
Right.
than it is for you to actually do things that will actually be beneficial and helpful for Black people.
Yes.
And that's where I draw a line. So we know that Republicans, there's a certain aspect of republicanism, certain aspect of conservatism, with amongst the dominant society, where they use a lot of that dusty ninja rhetoric, basically. Y'all ninjas don't want to work, you're lazy, you're all down for any kind of friction, you're all deadbeats, all of this kind of, there's a segment over there that does that. But when I hear those so-called Black conservatives engaging in the same talking points, when those talking points have been soundly debunked, in particular those that are in this space, and we talk regularly about how Black men are maligned. We talk about the Black male ethnic image. We talk about a lot of the misinformation, a lot of the stuff that Keisha's out here spreading. We talk about this. But then for them to use the same talking points and to continue with that's problematic. I have a real issue with that.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. I got the show segment, and I love your analysis. I love your thought processes. I'm gonna challenge you. I want you to challenge me. In the process of challenging one another, you're my brother, and I love you. But we're just gonna challenge each other and have a coaching conversation. As I've always said, I've said it many times when I've been to the conclave. We're not going to agree on all things, and that's okay. The problem with people, Doc, is that when people disagree with things, they get in their feelings, they start supporting you. That's goofy to me. There are many folks I don't agree with, but I'm not going to cut them off just because I disagree with them. Reason and civility and honesty and true brotherhood doesn't cast its brother aside just for differences of opinion, unless it's something egregious or something highly antithetical to your biblical worldview or whatever. But this general banter or whatever, I'm not going to do that. But also, we're going to talk about the internalization of victimhood. We're going to talk about confirmation bias. We're going to talk about unconscious pathologies, and it's going to be a real good show. But in the meantime, shout out to my man, Revelating Spirit of Indifference. He said when Charlie Kirk spoke greasy about Black men specifically, and he probably dismissed a lot of the true facts and the DEI nonsense, I didn't care about anything else he had to say. Quite honestly, I'm indifferent. Yeah, some are indifferent. And shout out to my man, Revelating Spirit of Indifference, as he is thus far the #1 sponsor of the stream. Some are indifferent, Doc, and we're going to get into that. But we're going to talk about the good of Charlie Kirk first, and then we're going to let it go down the line. But trying to be as objective as possible, I'm going to play this clip. I'm just going to talk about the good of Kirk.
Explore the good, bad, and ugly for why Charlie Kirk was such a controversial figure. He was seen as a pariah by some, a hero by others, and the devil in social media. But have the world become blinded by confirmation bias and nefarious agendas that seek to divide us? Join me live.
Things you have an appetite for. The danger in it is that you pigeonhole yourself and you become narrow and you only have information from one side. If you believe that Charlie was just this great man of God and he is a martyr, you have no clue what these other people could be thinking about. So the person who says, how can you celebrate this man? How can you lift up this man? Well, you don't understand how much he was doing good on college campuses and the gospel was being preached. And it's not because people want to lift up somebody that's evil. It's just that they have had a different encounter and experience than you. Right. So empathy says, like, let me put myself in your shoes so that I can see things from your vantage point So I don't judge something incorrectly.
When we slow down to listen to why people feel the way they do, even if you disagree, when you listen to why, it does something in your heart to say, okay, I don't agree with you, but I understand from your point of view what you're talking about.
Right.
It allows us to have compassion and empathy toward one another.
I want to give Charlie some credit here, okay? Back in 2019, Charlie Kirk helped a lot of young blacks get to the White House. He changed a lot of their lives. A lot of them never imagined going to the White House, and Charlie helped hundreds of young black boys and girls go to the White House. Charlie, thank you for that.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, man.
So for people who want to call Charlie a racist, kiss my black ass, excuse my language. Charlie Kirk is not a racist.
I love this guy. I'll tell you. And, you know, by the way, I have some New York Times reporters for you to talk to.
I'll talk to them.
No,
How would Jesus regard a Charlie Kirk? First of all,
Now, let me ask you a question. We've already established that Charlie Kirk perhaps said some insensitive things towards black people, and it more or less marred or continued to mar the ethnic image of black men like you and I. You and I always talk about dusty Negroes. I don't mind talking about dusty Negroes. The Raekwons, the Man-Mans, the Day-Days of the world, those are dusty Negroes. But is it safe to say that Charlie Kirk failed to do a fair assessment? Some would say he exonerated men like, what's the guy named Thomas Sowell, Clarence Thomas. He even had words for not Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King. We don't get into that. But did you see some good from Charlie Kirk based on what you heard from these sentiments? Because this is just an analysis, guys. So y'all that are coming in, you got to have an open mind. I got a musical savant, a man that's very intellectual, unlike myself, and we're just looking at the evidence. So you got to have an open mind, even if you disagree with Charlie Kirk. That's fine. If you thought he was the devil, or that's fine too. That's fine. That's okay. But we're gonna look at the good, bad, and the ugly. But what's ruminating through your head, Doc, when you hear those talking points, brother? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'd argue that it may actually be more dangerous for someone to appear to be good, as it were, to do some good things in order for it to legitimize smuggling in some other stuff that ain't good, that isn't good. And I'd argue that there's been a number of figures that have been, in the general sense of things, positive, however, when it came to their assessment of black people, and in particular black men,
right,
for whatever reason, that sense of reason, that sense of being well studied, turning over every stone, it goes out the window. And I'd argue that the reason that is because it's because nobody cares about black men.
Right.
I mean, nobody cares about black people. And
right.
The problem with a lot of this sort of rhetoric that tends to come from a particular political perspective is that it's dehumanizing to black people, mm-hmm. and it makes it easier for people to mistreat black people.
Right.
It makes it easier for them to legitimize when atrocity, when bad things happen to black people. It causes us to be able to do things like turn a blind eye to 30 million abortions since Roe v. Wade.
Right.
Percentage. It causes us to be able to turn a blind eye when it's discovered that 9 of the 10 hair products being sold to black women have carcinogens in them.
Yes, yes.
It causes us to be able to do that, and then it's not just the dominant society that adopts a very low a very low opinion of black people, a lack of concern and apathy for black people. It's not just that. It's black people themselves.
Mhm.
It's nasty work. It's nasty work. It's insidious. It's not we're not talking checkers here. We're talking chess.
Right.
You can sacrifice a player for the sake of, making a move. In chess, there's a rule called the golden three rule.
Mhm.
And that is a bishop is worth -3 and a rook is worth +3. It is always acceptable to sacrifice a bishop for a rook. This is acceptable, right? And to folks, that are watching, well, hey, they're both worth 3. Oh no, well, no, one's worth -3. The other one is worth 3. And so anything to protect that piece. So you see a lot of very clever, very slick things that are happening in politics, in media. There's something that the left does frequently,
Right.
That can look like expressing a particular kind of concern
Right.
for black people.
Right.
But actually, it's the opposite of that. It's
Yes.
actually, it is actually what I want to say. It's actually a sort of a redux. It's a reprise. It's a it's occurring due to the history, the history of interactions between black folks and white folks. But it's this thing when we see on news media over and over, someone gets ended by the cops, a brother gets ended by the cops, usually a white officer, and then they play this thing over and over and over, and they play it from different angles. Oh, we got new footage. Now you can see there, he really rears back with the flashlight on this one, in your 24-hour news cycle over and over. And what they'll claim, what the conservatives claim, is, see, that shows that we actually do care about black people.
Right.
See, how come we don't show this footage when it's a white person?
Right.
Like this. But see, it's more clever than that. This is actually, this comes from when a male slave would try to run away. They got caught. They get beat to death in front of everyone. And then their carcass is put on the master's porch, and it stays there as a reminder, I did this to you. This is what can happen to you if you get out of line. Lynching is part of this, and you leave the bodies up in the trees for long periods of time. Birds and stuff are picking on the bodies like this. It's a reminder of who is actually in control of this thing.
Right.
Now, what we're seeing right now is not this sort of extra overt, version of this, but it's subtle. But that's actually what I think is happening when the news, and we are so fascinated by the mutilated bodies of black men. Why we're so fascinated with that? Why the news just takes an image. Again, conservatives will say, see, this proves that this country cares about black people.
Right.
No. This country is interested in keeping things the way that they are.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think so? Let's be real clear. I detest liberals with a passion. They're worse, in my opinion, than conservatives because the white liberal, like Malcolm X said, is the fox that you can't see. They promote in all things that are antithetical, not only to heteronormative to masculinity, but they promote everything, Dr. Dunn, that is not consistent with a biblical worldview, and also not only a biblical worldview, the nuclear family, God in Christ. They are the emissaries to Christ. They're the worst of the two if you want to look at the two. Some, I'm not going to say all conservatives, but some black conservatives and white conservatives have what's called thinking errors. They have dark spots that they can't see, and they minimize they minimize the impacts of systemic racism using regressive jargon or using, I call it Jedi mind tricks to minimize what black folks have been through. But however, the white liberals tend to keep black folks in a state of arrested development where they over-pathologize racism and they overclaim that everything is racism, where they make the white man a god instead of relying on the sovereign hand of God, and not understanding that we have the power to change the trajectory of where we're going at. But sadly, a lot of black women have fallen into the hands of white liberalism. Because this is the way I look at it, Doc. Let's say if we got some rednecks that don't like you and I. They might call us the N-word and say all kinds of stuff, but they don't disrespect. I mean, they don't say it to our face. But they're not going to stop you from having a traditional family. They might say you can worship at our church, but you can worship in your own church. That's still a lot better than these radicals that more or less try to cancel you if you say and talk about anything consistent with God. That's the problem I have with white liberals. They're worse, in my opinion. The white liberal is the fox that you don't see. I know what I'm talking about because I went to a PWI. They look at you like you're inferior, that you're a victim, that you need a white man to pat you in the head. But Jim Bob, the white conservative that you don't like, and I'm not saying all white conservatives are that way. I'm not, and I'm not saying all black conservatives are like that. I'm like you. I'm apolitical. I'm definitely not liberal. And I'm not Republican. I'm a moderate. I tend to look at things through the lens of policy. I'm apolitical. I don't care about the parties, but I do care about the policies that were consistent with helping us become better. And so it's this truncated view where a lot of times people will not take the time to think and listen and set aside their confirmation bias. You and I all have confirmation bias, even in academia. When you're looking at things from a peer review perspective, you have to be very cognizant that you don't bring bias into the conversation, which can contaminate the efficacy of the conversation, but also the efficacy of the research. Would you not agree?
Yeah. I basically agree with much of what you said. I'd maybe provide a bit of a tweak.
Right.
There's racism.
And Doc, share it on your stream. I don't know if we're sharing it. You can share it on your stream, on your channel if you want to. It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I posted the link.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Go ahead, brother. Mm-hmm.
So there's racists in both parties.
Yes.
Okay. And so having an R by your name or a D by your name doesn't eliminate that fact. Now, the way that it is expressed is different. And the way that the policies that are proposed have a different sort of strategy as far as the way that they express that sense of racism. Okay. But both parties are full of racists. So
right.
I much prefer someone to come right up to me and say, "Hey, you a ninja."
Right.
Get away.
I
from me.
agree.
Stay away from my property. I'd much prefer that than someone that comes up to me, smiles in my face, shakes my hand, puts their arm around me and says, "Hey, you're my friend. I really appreciate having all kinds of different people around and, X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to support you and help you any way that I can and blah, blah, blah." And then you find out that this is the person that has actually been working against you.
Right.
Assertively.
Right.
They work against your interests. They wait until you're out of sight. They all kind of in words, all kind of this and that.
Yes, sir.
I much prefer.
Yes, sir.
Much prefer someone to be direct. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that I have to give conservatives is that conservatives will tend to be more upfront. And so at least I know what I'm dealing with. liberals will tend to be sneaky, much more passive aggressive. And this has certainly been the case in my experience in the academy.
Yes, sir.
And I will
Same
tell you
here.
flat out.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you flat out. Although I'm not suggesting that there's never been a conservative in the academy that has meant me wrong or has worked against me. I'm not suggesting that that is the case, but by far, the most resistance, the most devious, behind the back, backstabbing, passive aggressive, trying to derail my efforts. That's been white liberals 100.
I totally agree.
Okay,
I totally agree.
Not to say that
Totally
all
agree.
of them are that way.
Yes, sir.
And because I have a number of them that have been very supportive and very helpful, and that are friends and that are good friends. However, the ones that have worked against me disproportionately have been white liberals. Now, there's another classification of what I call white liberals in blackface. That is brothers and sisters that so embrace the white liberal value system that they will carry the water of the white liberal, and they'll do all of the same devious, behind the back stabbing stuff, and they'll have conversations discussing issues associated with race, and they understand what it's like for you in your situation, but then they'll go in behind your back and use that stuff against you. They'll actually attack you with what they know you're most vulnerable with. So I'm just telling you, yeah, there's a lot of these kinds of kinds of folks, and it's a very sort of isolating, alienating sort of experience being a black man in the academy. Just with the environment. So I totally agree. I don't. And my son is in Catholic school. He'll be in Catholic school until he, goes to college. I'm keeping him away from public school. I'm keeping him away from that largely because a lot of the stuff that's being pushed by these liberals is not the kind of stuff that I want my son to be exposed to. And he's a black boy, and so that makes him even more of a target. And look, you don't get to, as a black boy, you don't get to experiment with your sexuality and then later on, hey, that was just, I was just figuring out who I was, and I was just, no. That's not for black men. Black men don't get that. We don't get that. Maybe black women get that. Maybe other women, women in general get that as a pass. Men don't get that as a pass. Right. In particular, black boys do not get that as a pass. So all of that kind of stuff that they're peddling is just, I think, and then from a Christian perspective is very, it's devastating. I find it to be morally reprehensible. All of this battling against the patriarchy, pushing against nuclear families and all this kind of stuff, which is just it's despicable.
Doug, is my mic okay, or is it muffled?
Hey, I can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Was my mic prior? Was it muffled?
Yeah, why don't you turn it up a little bit?
Okay, yeah, because I don't know what to call. But anyway, I'm off the mic now. But anyway, I understand the passion, Doc. That's why I'm having this show. That's why I brought you on, because you and I both have the ability to look at all angles. Most people are not free thinkers. Most people are not critical thinkers. Most people are emotional thinkers. They don't look at all angles. They get so wrapped up in their emotions that they can't see outside themselves. One of the things that people got to learn how to start doing, Doc, it's called self-introspection. It's hard to do sometimes because we all have dark spots. I have dark spots. I'm sure you got dark spots. But I like something you said earlier about white liberals. Theology said it was not that my enemy that reproached me, but then I could have had a warning. But he said, it was you, my brother. And basically in the book of Proverbs, the person that they thought was their friend really was their enemy. And that's the worst kind of hurt, because it's the hurt that you can't see. It's the black ice. And I will argue, Doc, since the advent of the Lyndon B. Johnson administration, white liberalism has destroyed black folks. Now, I'm not saying Democrats of the past are like the Democrats now. Democrats back then were different, but these Democrats now are radical. They're radical Democrats. And the radicalization that often happens in these schools is problematic. But also the ignorance of people, like you were saying earlier, constantly trying to denigrate the black male image. Because see, watch this, Doc. Charlie Kirk's argument, and I don't know Charlie Kirk. I'm trying to understand him. I don't know. Was he ignorant in some areas? Yeah, he was ignorant. Was he pushing the propaganda and people were paying him to do it? I don't know. Could that have been possible? Possible. But from a theological worldview, if he was pushing the gospel of Jesus Christ in his ignorance, then, like somebody said earlier, he was duplicitous and hypocritical. But do I believe he was a true believer? Yeah, I tend to believe that. Was he ignorant in some areas? Yeah, he was ignorant, because he was truncating all black men to the Pookie and the Ray Rays and the Daquans and the Man-Mans, and doing what many white conservatives continue to do, is to promulgate or destroy the image of black men, which is a problem, because you got a black son, and then you and I both are black men. We don't have a problem with critiquing black men or black women, because we critique them. You and I, we talk about it all the time on our show. But you got to have a fair argument, because Charlie's argument would have been better if he said, this is what white conservatives need to stop doing. And he used the same energy and focus about white conservatism or black conservatives as he did to just black people in general. Then that would have been a fair argument, because the scripture said, before you look at another man, you got to take the beam out of your own eyes before you can try to look at the plank in your brother's eyes. And I may not be saying it verbatim. So if you're going to critique somebody, that's fine. But if you don't do it in a way where you look at yourself first, then it makes you a hypocrite. I'm going to finish listening to some of these clips that they were saying about Charlie Kirk, and then you and I are going to continue. Hold tight. Let me see if I can find. And guys, share the stream, please. Share some love. Donate to the channel. It took a lot of time to put this show together. You got to have an open mind and critical debate. If you don't have an open mind, you're not going to see everything. You're going to be in your emotions, and you're going to take things personal instead of understanding that Dr. Thunder now just trying to have hold tight, a cogent conversation.
He would love him, because he was made in God's image too. And he's passionate. And there are other things that he said that we probably would go along with. But I'll tell you this. Jesus would challenge every last bit of his teaching that opposes the love and the justice of God. And if we are the body of Christ on earth, then I'm afraid that we're called on to do the same thing.
A black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are.
Now, Doc, this part right here is the bad of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk brought forth some new lines, but was Charlie Kirk pushing Christian nationalism, or more or less the bad of Charlie Kirk? So we're going to look at the bad of Charlie Kirk. Hold tight. We're going to look at the bad of Charlie Kirk. And this is going to more or less go back to what you were talking about earlier, because most DEI hires are white women. So that's hypocritical when you take the lesser of them to equivocate them to white people, when white people in general know more DEI hires than black folks. So let's look at this, and then we're going to break it down. Hold tight.
Qualified. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman. I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? Thomas Sowell and Justice Clarence Thomas are far better black role models to celebrate than Martin Luther King. Period. End of story. This guy is not worthy of a national holiday. He is not worthy of godlike status. In fact, I think it's really harmful. I'm going to trust the Lord. I know what we're saying is true. I was disappointed because I said, listen, guys, you could hate what I'm doing. You could criticize it.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live as a capitalist, okay? I live what I believe. No. What do? I get...
Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks
we would have been called the racist. We know it's very obvious to us that you were not smart enough to be able to get in on your own. Should black...
All right. What's so inflammatory about those comments? I think that's partial of what you talked about earlier, Doc. But not only that, as I said earlier, most DEI hires weren't black folks. It definitely wasn't black men. And so for Charlie to make those irreprehensible comments, in my mind, is what's caused him to be not seen so much in a saintly way. That's the ignorance of Charlie Kirk, or the ignorance of Charlie Kirk promulgating negative images and stereotypes. Now, is there some truth in what he said? I don't know. But what's so dangerous about that rhetoric? I want you to elaborate on that.
So here is, and again, this is the critical piece that has been debunked. So he is still using a talking point that's been debunked. That is, we know that 84% of the recipients or the beneficiaries of affirmative action have been white women, and that 76% of DEI has been white women. So that leaves a small percentage of people left. All right. And in my experience, in my life, in my own life, in conversations that I've had with my dad is 76. Mm-hmm. He was a bureaucrat in state government in Michigan, a high-ranking bureaucrat when he retired. Lasted through several regime changes. And in my estimation and his estimation, whenever black folks are actually given these opportunities, in particular black men, they're overachievers, but they get put under this affirmative action DEI label, right? Because the institution would not hire them except for this affirmative action or DEI could basically give them some sort of, kudos or something, some kind of cool points or something for having hired some black folks. My dad has an IQ of 160. Mm-hmm. Okay. 160. That's what is that? That's Einstein's IQ, 160. All right. Now listen, my dad was always the smartest person in the room. Mm-hmm. Also the hardest working. Mm-hmm. My dad was raised by a single mother. Mm-hmm. Okay. My dad is an overachiever and beat the odds every moment. He decided, and my mother was raised by a single mother also. They decided that ends now. Mm-hmm. They've been married for 57 years.
Yes, sir.
My dad, his kids, my older brother is computer security, security software designer and developer, making all kind of money. My sister is a psychiatrist, is one of the top calls in Western Michigan as far as court cases and whatnot. My younger brother is a military career, military guy, and I am a tenured professor, full professor at a Big Ten institution.
Yes.
Okay. Now, listen. This is not by chance. It's not actually all that uncommon for folks like my father, who had the opportunity to do the kind of job he had, to have family structures where not only are his kids, all of his kids, overachievers and doing well in their careers, were also married with children. Okay, there's no deadbeats. There's none of that. Okay, so in my experience, the ones that actually do get through that gateway, especially the black men, are overachievers. Every time my dad got a raise, got a promotion at his job, the white folks would be, the white liberals, right? Mm-hmm. They'd be like, "Oh, he's getting affirmative action. That's the only reason he's getting a boost is affirmative action." Right. One time, my dad wears cowboy hat everywhere, boots and cowboy hat. And he had his suit on, boots and cowboy hat. He was in the bathroom at his place of employment. Some white guys came in there, and they said, "Can you believe this guy wearing a cowboy hat and like this? Blah blah blah. Some Dusty Ninja, some kind of stuff."
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know he was in there.
Mm-hmm.
He came out the stall and he said, the only time I'm going to let y'all dress me is when I'm stretched out in a pine box.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I'm telling you is, what it is that Charlie is talking about by the numbers is bogus. And
Right.
in my experience, I've had to be 2 to 3 times, the person for a position
Right.
to get even looked at as my
Yes.
white counterpart. That's been my existence.
Mine too. I've been through it too. I've been through it as well. As you know, I am a licensed clinical therapist. I'm matriculated at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Graduated honors from North Carolina Central University. And also I got my first degree in law enforcement. And you're right. I had to work extremely hard to get where I got at. I got it straight from the mud. And listen, Doc, we know there's not equal opportunity. Are there opportunities? Yes, but is it equal? No. I want to challenge what this person said, because this goes back to your talking point, Doc. And then we're gonna look at the research real quick, but I'm gonna pull it up. And guys, do me a favor, if you like what I'm doing, share the stream, donate to the channel. It took hours to put this show together. Please donate to the channel if you support what I'm doing. This person says, and see, this is a dichotomy of thought, Doc, that often happens with either Charlie Kirk lovers and Charlie Kirk haters. They don't see things from different angles. They only see one view, and then they just get truncated on that. Black people don't feel safe in black communities anymore. You ruin every community that you guys take over. Tell me I'm wrong. So let's look at that. That's a thinking error called overgeneralization, where a person has what's called an ego defense mechanism, where they take information that's not predicated in reality, and they equivocate all black people based on the misgivings of a few. That's called overgeneralization, which is an ego defense mechanism, but also it's a cognitive distortion called minimization. So let's look at the research, because this person perhaps mean well, but it sounds like it's a sneer of racism involved. It sounds like it has a sneer of racism. So let's look at the evidence, Doc. If I can find it. Well, actually, here it goes, right here. Let's read it. And this is what you and I have talked about, because, I had a so-called white friend, or a white friend that, said, black men don't take care of their kids. And they always, like some black women do, equivocate all black men based on the misgivings of a few. This is what the research says. Research suggests that black fathers being less involved, and that fathers being involved in fathers of other races is a myth. It's a myth because are there dusty black men that don't take care of their kids? Yes. Is that incompetence of all black men? No. And black fathers are often more involved in daily caregiving, play, reading, and activities with their kids, even as non-resident fathers. Studies indicate that black fathers, both resident and non-resident, demonstrate high levels of engagement, which is linked to positive child outcomes like improved social and emotional skills and academic readiness. It says that daily care and activity, black fathers who live with their children have higher rates of daily involvement in activities like bathing, dressing, feeding, and helping them do their homework. Non-resident black fathers are more likely to spend time and engage in activities with their children than any other racial group, such as Hispanic fathers, and often share responsibilities and engage in co-parenting more frequently. Busting stereotypes, which is a stereotype that's not predicated in truth. Research debunks the false narrative of black fathers' absence, showing this stereotype is not accurate, and black fathers are accurately involved in their children's lives, according to the Facebook post with the CDC data and the Henchinger report. And so this goes back to what we are saying. Are there derelict black fathers like the Day-Days and the Man-Mans? Yes. But is that typical of all black people if we had to look at it from a statistical analysis? No. But what the media does, it takes the dregs of black folks and it falsely equivocate that segment of black folks as being all black people. And that's what's problematic with the talking points of Charlie Kirk. I'm going to say it again. Charlie Kirk did not deserve to lose his life. But Charlie Kirk is not infallible. The scripture said, be instant in and out of season. There's a time to exhort, there's a time to rebuke, and there's a time to teach. And someone should have challenged Charlie Kirk on his talking points, as his talking points are dangerous, and this cognitive distortion or this those thinking errors are very detrimental to the image of black men. What do you say about that, brother? Go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I agree with you. And here's another thing. The majority, and a vast majority of black folks are law abiding. The vast majority are law abiding. Yeah, you got some quiches out here. You got some folks shoplifting, doing all kinds of stuff. You have a small percentage of gang sort of affiliated kinds of crimes, they being perpetrated by single mother raised young men. We'll say from 14 to 25 in that sort of age range. But a lot of these assessments that black people disproportionately are the red rummers of society and all this kind of stuff, it's all hogwash. Most of this stuff is bogus. The black on black crime, yeah, there's also crime is a proximity.
Right.
Is that a proximity?
Yes.
White on white crime is 85%.
Right. Right.
Okay. And the elevation of the percentage of those committing murder is higher in the white community committed by white people than by any other group. Mm-hmm. But this is not something that they act as though they even understand, mm-hmm. because the media has done a successful job of spreading all kinds of false information, all kinds of propaganda against black people. Again, the danger of somebody like a Charlie Kirk, the danger of somebody saying the kinds of things that he said, is that it has a tendency to dehumanize black people, right, and to make it easier for them to do things against the interest of black people. It makes it more convenient. They feel even justified, right, in their actions against the interests of black people.
Right.
And that's, it's not fair. It's not a fair assessment. Mm-hmm. It's not a fair assessment that black folks are out here ruining stuff. Most of the people that live in black communities are being victimized, mm-hmm. by hooligans, mm-hmm. right? By a small percentage of folks. Mm-hmm. And that's not and the thing is that law-abiding citizens want more policing. They want more policing. They want that element away from their communities. So it's just false. All of that whole line of reasoning is completely false. Right. It's been debunked over and over. It is not true. It's never been true. Now, what has been true is that the government has actually done acts of terror against black communities and black financial centers. The government has done this. The government has acted against black folks. The Tuskegee experiment. I ran a story a couple weeks ago about this. I think it was in. I can't think of the name of the city. It might be Kansas City, but the name of no, it could be Louisville. I can't remember where it is now. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, this mysterious mist that the government released in an urban center as an experiment of some sort of chemical warfare, developing these, and now you have a disproportionate number of the folks that were exposed to that are getting cancer and all kinds of things. So it's the government that has been doing these kinds of things against black people. It was the government that incentivized Keisha to choose the government over the father of their kid.
Right.
Look, the same policy was in place and could have been policed against white women, against all kinds of other women. But no, that's not what they did. They, in particular, policed the black community in insisting that the man did not live in the place, was not cohabitating with a woman, was not married to the woman, so that she could get that government check, while simultaneously making it very difficult for gainful employment for black men. So of course the women are going to choose the state. Right. And then the audacity of setting up a system this way and then trying to act like, throwing rocks, right, and hiding your hands. Yes, and trying to act like, oh, we didn't have anything to do with the way that this, stuff panned out. Mm-hmm. It's just all, it's all complete and total hogwash. Right. And it reflects a low level of research, a lack of nuance, a lack of understanding how to conduct research, and a willingness to just parrot and repeat anything that you say, as long as it comes from somebody that's got an R behind their name.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love that. Eloquent what you said, man. And that's what I'm doing this show, Doc. I'm doing this show because we want to debunk the myths. This is not an attack on Charlie Kirk as a human being. His humanity is not being attacked, but his talking points are going to be attacked, because we should all attack talking points, not necessarily the person. And those are the things that I disagree with Charlie Kirk profusely. And those are the things that a lot of times some white conservatives tend to push as well, but also the white liberals no different. David said, I believe Charlie had another 5 to 10 years, he would have learned and grown more. I'm 35 and have learned and grown from where I was 30, let alone 25. I agree with pro-family, God, anti-war, even questioning. Rest in peace. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with what David said. I think if he had more time, maybe he would have changed his worldview. But then again, maybe he wouldn't. I don't know. But that's an excellent point. David.
I think there's evidence that he was actually in the midst of changing his perspective on some things.
Right.
Okay, so one thing. There was a line of questioning that was not a usual line of questioning, as far as providing, creating more nuance before making it a blanketed statement. That actually is something that he asked right before he got shot. Mm-hmm. He said, "Are you talking about gang violence?" Mm-hmm. Right? That's not usually something that's afforded when we start talking about quote unquote black on black crime. Usually what they try to do is they try to blanket it like, well, look, you just as likely to get off by a 50-year-old at the grocery store, 50-year-old man at the grocery store putting the stuff in the back of his car, than you are by one of these young boys, right? Because y'all are just murderous, and it's just the culture. It's just you just out here, you down for any kind of friction. You down for any kind of friction. Right. And you have a short fuse, and you ready to, you probably got a gun right in your shorts. You ready to get it in, but he did that. That's one. A second thing is, and Candace Owens has been talking about this quite a bit. I covered this last week. But there's this belief that he was changing his perspective on Zionism. Like, he's been a Zionist for all this time, but he was actually becoming more nuanced on this and was starting to criticize certain things, that if you criticize Netanyahu, then okay, now that means that you're anti-Jewish or something.
Right, anti-Israel, right.
Semitic, anti-Semitic, and he was actually expressing with some level of intensity his lack of contentment with that sort of development. Also, he was interviewed by a friend of Jeremiah Trenum, priest, the priest father Jeremiah Trenum, Orthodox priest. He is the priest of a church it's out in California, and he is very, I mean, you want to talk about somebody that goes after liberals like crazy. He's all about that. He's got a really thriving church. He's got a huge channel. It's got like 500,000 subs or something like that. And he just gets on there and he shares his thoughts and prayers on a number of things. But really, really heavy guy. If you guys haven't checked him out, but one of Jeremiah Trenum's friends, Charlie Kirk, appeared on his program and on his podcast. And actually, Jeremiah Trenum was hoping that they could make the connect so that he could have this conversation with Charlie, because his desire was to actually share with him, orthodoxy, to share with him some different perspectives and historical things, hopefully to dismantle a lot of this dispensationalism that Charlie Kirk was heavy in, and a lot of the Zionists tend to support. A different perspective on that, some more history and some more nuance associated with Christianity, and it seemed as though some of those things may have been happening. And that's not necessarily more nuance associated with his take on certain things racially in America, but that shows that the guy was 31. Look, listen, man. If you were to listen to me when I was 31, know how much different, how much different I sound now,
right,
than I did when I was 31.
Yes, sir. That's true. Very true. Very true.
It's not even similar.
Right. I totally agree.
Even similar, man.
I totally agree. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, even the changes that have occurred since my son has been born 12 years ago.
Right.
Even in that period of time. How much different what it is that I think my motivation for things, me having spent some more time thinking certain things out, because it was really critically important that I come to a conclusion, because I have a son, all of this, it's just a different thing, man. I just, look, he said a lot of bogus things. He said he was spreading a lot of propaganda and misinformation. I don't know that it was disinformation. I don't know if he knew that the stuff was lies that he was saying or not, but it was propaganda nonetheless. And it was misinformation nonetheless. And I do think that to that end, it did damage. However, that being said, look, the guy was 31. We don't know if he was going to change or not. And, it's really unfortunate that we live in a society now where people actually feel emboldened and they feel rightful in actually celebrating the demise of someone because they had such different views than they themselves.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I agree with that 100%. That's wrong.
It's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Right. And I'm going to say it again. I highly repudiate any person to celebrate the death of that man. You didn't have to agree with him, but the man still was a father. He had a wife, he had kids. I could see what Charlie Kirk, Doc, was going around killing other folks, and he was killing communities, and that would be a fair argument. He shot people in cold blood, so he deserved to lose his life. But the man didn't deserve to lose his life. Even if he was ignorant in some areas, he didn't deserve to lose his life. We're going to talk about white on white crime in a minute, guys. But do me a favor, get the like button up, hit the likes, hit the stream. Go check out my man, Dr. Dunder, guys. We're going to continue to drop some fire for your mind. And guys, go hit that like button. And we're going to challenge some of these talking points, because these talking points need to add nuance. But shout out to Brother David, and also shout out to Revelator Spirit of Variance, as they are the two #1 sponsors of the stream.
Hit that like button. Go ahead, do it now before I reach out into that screen and twist your hand like Aunt Esther. Hit the like button. Thank you.
destroy. All right, guys, hit the like button. Please hit the like button and feed the algorithm. The algorithm needs to be fed in this very timely conversation with my dear friend, Dr. Thunder, a musical savant. He's a distinguished professor at the Ohio State University. I had to put the D on it. Like I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We both went to prestigious universities. To my
knowledge, actually legally, right. D has been trademarked. It has been trademarked.
It's been trademarked. I didn't. Okay. Well, I don't know, but we say here, but we say in these parts, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We say in these parts, Doc. But anyway, let's get back to this because this is a very powerful conversation. Hold tight.
People get reparations.
I believe they should.
So I, white man, have to play for black people. Why?
Wow, that's a really selfish thing you
just said. Hold on. Why should I have...
That's a really non-empathetic thing to say.
Why should I have empathy for a race? I have white guilt because I breathe? Why should the white students here have to work harder to pay for black kids? What is that all about?
Not every black person has lineage connected to slaves.
That's true.
Every white person doesn't have lineage connected to slaves.
Yes, that's right. So since every black person doesn't have a lineage connected to slaves, why should we generalize and say reparations for black people?
Because there are people that are in a worse place.
So over 150 years, they didn't have any ability to make better decisions, to save money, and to invest. How about you take responsibility for your own actions instead of blaming the white man?
What's crazy is the many people.
And then, Doc, here's another talking point where I disagree fundamentally with Charlie Kirk. People, what I don't understand, Doc, we gave Jews reparations for what happened in the Holocaust. The Black Holocaust was the worst Holocaust of all atrocities because it's chattel slavery. And I think that let's say to the average white person does not owe me anything. But the oligarchs that play the role in the American government, we could argue that white folks might not owe me anything, but the white American government does owe black people reparations. They might, how they're going to spend it, I don't know. But you cannot get a country that was built off free slave labor and then talk about the programs that were given and, all the goofy stuff, which is another cognitive distortion. They say, you don't deserve, sure you deserve reparations, just like the Jews deserve reparations for the Holocaust, like Native Americans, even though their reparations is trash with reservations. But it goes back with the passport bros. It ain't a problem to black men decide to travel. It ain't a problem to black folks decide to ask for what's justly theirs. And I think it is tied to not only projection because they know they were wrong, but it's also tied to some level of guilt because they want to minimize what they did. There is no South without black free slave labor. And then, Doc, they always go to the talking point and say, well, your own people sold you into slavery, which is another myth. I want to talk about that because once again, I find it very funny that people did not understand that black people are not a monolith. The black tribes in Africa dealt with it was an ethnic conflict. It was highly an ethnic conflict, but it had nothing to do with something spurious called race. The tribes in Africa were no different than the white framers of the Constitution when they were rebelling against the monarchy in England. It was a tribal conflict or an ethnic conflict. It's no different than the Indians that fought against each other, where some Indians fought with the white cavalry and some Indians fought against it. But every time it comes to black folks, your own people sold you to slavery, but you don't say that your own people were complicit in starting wars, white on white violence that happened with the Revolutionary War, where white patriots left the monarchy and fought against one another and killed one another. You don't say nothing about white on white violence that was implicit in World War II, World War I. You don't say nothing about violence that was white on white in World War II and the axis of power. You don't say anything about all the wars the white people did towards one another for the sake of power. The black slaves or the black Africans that played a role in selling black folks to white people, it had nothing to do with black. It was an ethnic conflict, something that's endemic to all ethnic groups. But see, the problem in America, we don't look at black folks as being exclusively different people or being exhaustive in their approaches and their languages. We all assume that all black people are the same. And that's highly ignorant. It not only is it highly ignorant, it infuriates me because white conservatives feel this way, some white liberals feel this way, and they don't understand that fundamentally black people are not all the same. We were never the same. Black folks were forced into oneness when we came to America. But prior to coming to America, we came from different tribes of Africa, different nations, and we spoke different languages, and we had different worldviews. Just like you and I have different worldviews. But somehow, because of the struggle and because we were forced to become one, people assume and equivocate that black folks are all the same. But once again, they don't say nothing about white folks that were complicit in the Revolutionary War, white folks fighting against white folks, Brits against American patriots. They don't say nothing against World War I. They don't say nothing about white conflict or ethnic conflict among white people. And the ironic thing is, Doc, Charlie Kirk wasn't killed by a black man. Charlie Kirk was killed by a white man. He was killed by somebody white. But it's always minimized when it's white people doing it to themselves. But when black folks are doing it to themselves, they try to paint black folks in this negative picture. I don't deal with some of these dusty Negroes, Doc. I don't associate with certain black folks because they're not from my tribe. I rock with you. And listen, you and I don't agree on all things, but we agree on a lot of things. And I love and respect you as a brother. But somehow they assume that all black people are the same. You colors are the reason why y'all are suffering. And they don't look at systemic racism. They don't look at redlining. They don't look at black patriots that fought in America that were never given generational wealth like their white counterparts. They don't look at all that. They always want to truncate black folks as saying this do better, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and stop blaming good white folk. I don't have no problem with white people in general. But as I said earlier, I do have a problem with the white American government. What say you?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that was being said in the video clip was the thing about reparations, right? So one thing that I have noticed that the conservatives, we'll say the naysayers of reparations, one thing that they don't usually bring up is the fact that the government actually promised these reparations to
okay, fair point. Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is no longer a matter of we think that we should be paid for this and y'all are lazy, why do you think you deserve more than anybody else? None of that stuff matters. Now it's a matter of legal. This is a legal matter. The government promised that they were going to do something and they reneged on the promise.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to honor their commitment to do what it is that they said. And any other community would hold the government's feet to the fire. White folks would hold the government's feet to the fire. The government made a particular promise, and then they reneged on something that was as substantial as 40 acres and a mule, and the kind of value that would have today. So that's a different thing. And one of the other counter arguments is, well, if you actually care about black people, you won't give them money because when people win the lottery, they end up, worse off, disproportionately, they end up worse off than they were before. And so basically you're just going to be increasing debauchery in the black community, blah, blah, blah. See, no. That's a hogwash. I don't want to hear that either. Because the thing is if you owe me money, give me my money. It's not up to you to tell me how I spend my money or if I'm going to waste my money or anything. No. The only time that's even a conversation is we talking about giving black people money. You're talking about giving anybody else money. They don't start talking about this, morality and blah, blah, blah. And, I just feel it would be doing something wrong by giving them this money. We don't want to be facilitating their demise and all this kind of hogwash. You better give me my money. Right. What does that have to do with you owing me money? If I loan Kosher, if I loaned you $5,000, $5,000 of my sandwich, sandwich money.
Sandwich money, right.
Gang, so I gave you $5,000 from the Sandwich Gang Fund. Hold up here. Okay, here we go. $5,000 from the Sandwich Gang Fund. And you said, yeah, I'll give it back to you, such and such. And then it came to that date. And I said, okay, I think you should go ahead and let me get my bread back. And then you said, you know what? I'm having a fit of conscience now. I don't know that I should give you that money back because you've been eating too many sandwiches.
Right.
I'm concerned about your health because you know, you need to be eating like vegan sandwiches, and I know you going straight for that pulled pork, and I can't in good conscience have you, eating that pulled pork. Right? So then you don't pay me. It's like, no, no, that's my money. Give me my money.
Yeah, Will McKay said the debt has already been paid. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about, Doc, something that many white conservatives won't talk about, because once again, we are not here to denigrate Charlie Kirk. We're here to look at some of the ignorance of Charlie Kirk. Ignorance just means he didn't know. I respect some of the things that Charlie Kirk did. Some of the things that Charlie Kirk did was good, as me and Doc talked about earlier in this podcast. He did some good things. I believe in pro-family. I believe in pro-faith. I believe in all of that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't agree with all this liberal stuff that you see now. Charlie did some good things, but Charlie also did some bad things too. And once again, let's talk about white on white crime that folks are not talking about, because right before Charlie lost his life, he was talking about crime in the inner city. But once again, as you said earlier, nobody talks about white on white crime. All the major crimes that's been going on here recently in America, because see, here's the thing I've learned about some white people, and I'm not talking about all white. There's some good white people, but a lot of white people, a lot of times, when they take somebody's life, it's based on power. A lot of the things that black people do to themselves, even though it's power, some of it's self-hatred that was internalized through transgenerational trauma. Yeah. But the Robert Westerman shooting was a white man, a white transgender guy that took 2 kids' lives and injured 17. Charlie Kirk himself was shot by a white man, while Charlie Kirk was talking about black folks being violent. The cops that were killed in Pennsylvania recently, I don't know what the race was, but I won't be surprised if they were white. The Denver shootings, all national shootings from Paducah on up to now has been promulgated by white folks. But folks don't talk about that. So Charlie's argument would have been better if Charlie, and I could be wrong because maybe I didn't hear Charlie talk about it, if Charlie talked about all the white people that are taking the lives of other white people. Even himself lost his life, sadly, to a deranged white liberal. Have Charlie maybe had these conversations? I don't know. I listened to Charlie Kirk. I thought the young man was brilliant in a lot of areas. But those are the black spots the white conservatives failed to see. The rise of white on white violence. Ours might be more, it's a concept between quality and quantity. Ours might be more, it's more quantity in the inner cities, but theirs is a higher quality because it's always either high political figures or it's the innocent. And then we will also argue, Doc, that theirs get the most attention, but nobody talks about it, even white conservatives. Why is that the case in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it doesn't serve the, there's a certain narrative, and it does not serve that narrative to talk the way that you're talking about it. I mean, you kind of want to keep things the way that they are because there's a lot of money to be made by keeping things the way that they are. So that in large part, I think, is why most things stay the way that they are, stay as dysfunctional as they are, don't actually get solved. One of the issues, and I talk about this frequently, is, you mentioned it, the thing about these school shootings. We could end that overnight. That stuff could end overnight. But rather than actually addressing the issue and doing something that would actually work in the United States, where you have over 400 million guns, you're not going to be able to get those guns back. And having, let's see here, no gun zones or gun-free zones, that all that does is announce that this is an easy, soft target because nobody's going to shoot back, right? So eliminate the gun-free zones in these schools, single point of entry, metal detectors, armed guard, and 2 to 3 teachers that have volunteered to go through training to be concealed carry. Nobody will know who they are.
Right.
You do those things, and then this is over. Also, you have to stop saying the name of these cowards that go in here and do these atrocities. Often is the case that they're doing this because nobody noticed them in their life, and they want to have a chance to be famous at any cost. And so stop saying their names, stop saying anything about their family. The authorities, they're the only ones that need to know any of that information. Stop playing this stuff on media, on social media. I'm not a tax and spend. I like low taxes. I like the government to be limited in scope, but I would pay a line item tax. You can charge me $250, charge everybody else $250,
right?
To put a fund together to create that, to do those modifications to the schools. And you fix that issue overnight. But the reason that the stuff doesn't get changed is because the powers that be, the structure that's in place, they know how to make money. They know how to exploit that.
Right.
But if you make changes to it, then they're going to have to change the way that they exploit. And there's no guarantee that they'll be able to extract maximum funds.
She said, isn't government assistance in DEI, affirmative action, or form of reparations already been paid? Have those programs actually changed anything? Well, once again, if you just came in, Dr. Thunder and I basically said that that's a faux pas. That's a misnomer. It's a highly misnomer because you're making the false assumption that DEI and affirmative action programs were exclusionary to Black people, but mostly the Black man that got none of it. If we're going to look at DEI and affirmative action, then because Black men are supposed to be the leaders in their families, it should have went to Black men, but it didn't. DEI and affirmative action programs unanimously benefited white women. And then I will argue, Doc, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know the data. I would say that Black women came next. Did the Black men coming forward after DEI and affirmative action? I know in DEI, Black men at the very bottom, or at the lower part of the totem
Black
pole.
Men are at the very bottom.
At the very bottom, right?
Bottom. Especially straight, free-thinking Black men. LGBT is on there,
right?
And you get a double minority credit for being Black and woman, but you don't get any credit for being Black and man. Because apparently that the male privilege that you have, that I'm just telling you, the stuff is total hogwash. 84 again, just for the person that you put the comment up there, 84% of the beneficiaries of affirmative action were white women. 76% of DEI was white women. Okay, so that those programs were not for Black people. They were marketed as being for Black people. They were not for Black people.
Right. And that's the fallacy that people don't want to talk about. But also, as I said earlier, they don't want to talk about white on white violence, but they don't want to talk about historical white on white violence. And somehow when it comes down to Black people got to always be pristine. They can't have no marks on their character. We got to always be better than everybody else. And once again, this Black, your people sold you into slavery is stupid, because that was tribal conflict. It was intertribal and intra-tribal conflict that's endemic to all ethnic groups. And that's why I hate that argument, because it's a very disingenuous argument, because it's not nuanced. And a lot of times people are not critical thinkers. They tend to think with their belly instead of thinking with logic, reason, and precision. But let's get back to this about Charlie Kirk. And we're going to talk about the ugly of Charlie. I mean, this is the bad of Charlie Kirk, how some people don't understand it. Let's listen to this whole time.
Anybody about Jesus. They sit there and they promote churchianity and they promote other things, but Charlie has reached more people for the Lord Jesus than they have. Yet they want to sit there and fix their, I would say their lips, but their fingers, their nimbly, grimbly little fingers, to type things against Charlie. Some of you better be happy. This is not the pre-2009 tie. I'm telling you, because I'd want all the smoke and I'd start tagging, doing videos just to do it. But I'm saved. The Lord saved me in 2009 from witchcraft, plus an understanding that I have large followings on each of my platforms and stuff. And this is being posted to my backup page, that I have a responsibility to go in a certain direction before the Lord. So I'm making this video but I'm not going to push that any farther with specific people. I might comment on your stuff unless the Holy Spirit tells me to publicly do it. You know, it is what it is.
What happens when a culture begins to...
All right, so Doc, let's talk about bootstrap bros theology. Let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about white nationalism too. You know, you and I have talked about this in part, but what is your biggest criticization? Why are you so critical of this bootstrap bro nonsense? Because I do agree with you. Just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I'm gonna tell you my reason, and then I want to hear yours.
Go ahead.
My reason why I'm very antithetical to the bootstrap phenomena is because, once again, it's not nuanced. When you think about the black farmers, they were never given equal access and equal opportunity as white farmers, but they were pulling themselves up by the bootstrap. A lot of times, white conservatives don't look at that. I don't agree with it because they don't look at how generational wealth was given to white recipients while black recipients were denied. Think about the black soldiers that fought for America, that were patriots, were given the same opportunities, the same GI Bill loans as their white counterparts. How much better black communities would have been. And I would argue, Doc, that even though we were always several steps behind our white other counterparts, we still excelled in spite of. Black folks have always been creative with taking something, nothing, and turning it into something. But then also the problem I have with the bootstraps conversation is that when it comes down to construction loans or when it comes down to general contractors, black folks are not given the same power as white contractors when it comes down to buildings. And so when you look at those variables, Doc, and those systemic issues, what would be your response to, because that's a form of systemic racism, when you're not giving equal access and equal opportunity. You might give opportunity, but it's not equal. And I think that's where Charlie Kirk missed the mark, because he didn't look at how systemically, because Charlie's argument was always, what's stopping you now? That's irrelevant, what's stopping you now. The question is it equal access, equal opportunity, so that people can thrive at the same time and be given the same tools? What's your response to that?
Yeah, so I call this bootstrap bro pathology. The issue is you have to have the boots, the straps, and a leverage point. So the problem is that with respect to the straps, largely, disproportionately, black folks were not given the straps. Largely, disproportionately, they were not given the boots, and pulling up by your bootstraps implies a leverage point. So you have to, in order to pull up against something, you have to be pushing down on something. There's nothing underneath to push up on, to by which to pull up on. All right. Now, so that's the problem with it. I mean, and that's more or less a sort of a surface assessment of bootstrap bro pathology. But, I would extend that to anyone that is talking this, you're lazy, you don't want to work, you're not using the same, you have the same access to all the tools, but you refuse to use them, all of this kind of stuff. And that's just not, there's just not evidence to support that is actually true. What they tend to do is they tend to cite things out of context, stuff that's been debunked, stuff like, father absence and all this kind of stuff as a way to, suggest that we had the same access, but that we were just lazy. There's just something about us, apparently genetically, that causes us not to be willing to utilize the same access to, power, the same access to upward mobility as others. And then, of course, they'll say that the evidence that this is true is when Nigerians come in here or other cultures come in, and in a generation or two they own all the stores on the corner,
right?
Like this, and they're balling out of control. Well, by definition, all immigrants are cozying up to the dominant society. So they are going to tend to use the same talking points. We talk about tethers, right? So tethers are those in particular come from the African diaspora that come in talking all of this bootstrap bro pathology, yo lazy niggas, and all of this kind of stuff. Y'all don't want to work, and they're saying the same thing, the same David Duke talking.
Yes, sir. Right.
That's and by the way, that's another issue that I think conservatives have to square with. Black conservatives, any kind of conservatives have to square with, and that is the fact that much of this sort of terminology and talking points that you hear from Republicans. Now, I'm not saying that this is intentional, but it's David Duke. I mean, if you listen to, look, I played and this is maybe a year ago now. It was a debate between Jesse Jackson. This is in 1970 something. Jesse Jackson and David Duke, who was the Grand Wizard of the KKK at that time. And you listen to him, he says all the same things. Oh, they don't want to work. They're lazy. They're this, they're, out of wedlock, this, out of wedlock, that, black on black crime, all of the same suite of talking points that get used in the same framing even of those talking points. Now look, he actually said some things that I think are true. Right. But you do need to square with that a significant portion of your talking points of your bootstrap bro pathology comes through David Duke.
Right.
It's you have to address that.
Right.
I mean, if you were to listen to that
same
debate, listen to David Duke back in that time in the 70s, listen to what he's saying, and then show me what it is that the common talking point that you hear on these sort of issues with respect to upward mobility and whatnot, in jobs and and unemployment rate and stuff like this. And you're going to have to explain. You're going to have to explain why. It's the same talking points.
Yes, sir. Shout out to my man, Brother Darkness, for that $5 cash app. He said, give Kosher some sandwich money. I want to challenge something that Mr. Lavelle said. And this is another conservative talking point. What white conservatives fail to understand, and some white liberals too, is that they assume that all white kids got in school based on the meritocracy system, which is it's highly fallacious. Were there some that got in school because of meritocracy? Sure. But they forgot that many white kids that got in schools because their parents had money. Their parents were big time donors. And then sometimes they also had better resources so they could take the test to become better. But they weren't necessarily smarter than anybody else. What's your take on those sentiments, Doc, that, when people, because I don't think that the SAT is necessarily a true barometer of a person's talent, because a lot of times those tests are constructed from a Eurocentric perspective. No different than me being a therapist, and even some therapists or some treatment models like cognitive behavioral therapy is highly efficacious, but it's sometimes hard to sell it to other ethnic groups. Other ethnic groups meaning Asian, Black, or whatever, because it's through the lens of white men. But what's your take on this nefarious assumption, this spurious notion? Because, Doc, and I know that every white person that got in school didn't get it for merit. They had the mom and dad had money, they had boots, they rubbed elbows, and like Trump probably wasn't that bright when he graduated from Wharton School of Business. I'm sure Trump had some daddy probably gave some donors money to put their kids into school. What's your take on that?
Yeah, nepotism is a real thing in the dominant society, and the way that the structure is built. It was built sort of prioritizing sort of the culture of the standard practices of the dominant society. That's how that works. And so those that are not dominant society, even just based on that factor, would have a steeper learning curve to develop the sort of knowledge of the ins and outs of the way that the structure works. And then in addition to that, there's an issue with, there's an issue with networks, right? So the structure is basically set up to facilitate certain kinds of networks. Those networks are disproportionately occupied by the dominant society. So they're their networks. They're the ones that disproportionately are occupying the network, and they are the gatekeepers of the network. And it just makes it a challenge. It's very much a challenge for those that didn't come from that to break in. Now, despite that, you still have a number of folks that do very well. Number of black folks that do very well. Now, this whole SAT, ACT, using that as some sort of measurement of intelligence, it's been shown over and over that it's not necessarily a good indication.
It's not exactly.
Of intelligence, nor is it necessarily a good indication of the success at the college level.
Right.
A better measurement of success at the college level would be academic courses. So a better way to tell would be, for instance, for students, high school students, to do a year at a community college. So then you can get an idea of what the rigor, the different level of the coursework is. That's going to be a much better indication of a success at that level. And like I said, there's been a lot of studies on this. A lot of schools have done away, a lot of colleges have done away with requiring ACTs and SATs. Ohio State did away with that. That's not something that we require anymore. But there are other ways to determine this sort of capability of the student, the seriousness of the student. Look, college is not really about developing original thought. It's about repeating back what is being taught. It's about learning how to say things in the way that the instructor wants to hear them.
Yes, sir. Right. It's called rote memorization. I was a former teacher. I was a special ed teacher. And you know what? I'm glad you said that, Doc. And I apologize for cutting across you, but I'm glad you said that, because the true measure of a man is not the regurgitation of information. Some people are educated, but all people are not intelligent. There are some people that never went to school and that are highly intelligent. And so there are different measures of it. Right. Charlie Kirk didn't go to school. Bill Gates didn't finish school. There are different measures of intelligence. And one could argue that perhaps these tests were used as a way to weed out black folks. So some of these tests were tied into perhaps racial overtones and trying to minimize black excellence. Now, Mr. Lavelle said that's an exception, not the rule. I would challenge you respectfully, Mr. Lavelle, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence that white kids are kicked out of school, that all white kids are not given opportunities to go to school because they're trying to fit some quota for black people, versus also black people that should have been given the opportunity to go to school? I'm not saying that there have not been situations where they allow black students in over white students that probably had higher SAT scores. I don't have a problem with that. But at the same time, you got to look at white folks that got jobs and positions, not because they were necessarily qualified, because they had what's called skin privilege. Every white person that got a job didn't get the job because they were qualified. They got the job because they were placed in those positions, not necessarily because of qualification. There have been qualified black men and other people from ethnic groups that never got the job, but they were just as smart or smarter. I'm sure you've seen that. Have you not seen situations where there were black folks that were more qualified than their white predecessors, but they weren't given the job? Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, I think this happens frequently. I implied it by saying that in order for me to get a certain kind of opportunity, I've had to be 2 to 3 times you know,
2 to 3 times better, right?
Yeah, right. So that means that folks that were on par, that were the same, they got overlooked. And look, the dictates of tribalism are such that the tendency is that people will favor people that look like them and that come from places similar to where they came from, so that they have similar cultural sort of experience or whatever expression. Okay, so that's the tendency. Now, the problem with that is if you're claiming a multicultural society, if you're claiming that everybody pays taxes, everybody's doing X, Y, and Z, that means that you have to intentionally break that thing up for the sake of all people having access. Now, I don't favor a system that is going to benefit certain folks at the expense of others. That's actually why DEI I find in particular problematic. I didn't find the first 2 years of affirmative action problematic because that was specifically an attempt to repair damages that the government did in the first place. But as it grew beyond that, the resources got funneled back to the dominant society, right? So, Title IX, now women are considered a minority, and now you can just go for the gusto and bypass those dusty ninjas and get right to the folks you want to take care of and tighten up in the first place.
Right. I'm going to challenge Victor Murray, and I want to get to these clips. He said, why are you so preoccupied with race? Be transformed by the renewal of your mindset by surrendering your life to our Lord and Savior Jesus. We are all the children of God, no matter the race. Well, I will argue that to the contrary. I do agree with that sentiment in theory, Victor Murray, I hope I said your name correctly, if that was a true actualization in real life, but the truth is it's not. Dr. King said the most segregated day is when you look at black churches and white churches in America. It's always been that way. One of the problems with white conservatives or white Christians in general, and listen, there are some good Christians that are white and they have good hearts and they love black folks and we fellowship as brothers and sisters. But let's be real. That's not the case 100% in all domains. Race is real. No different than people promulgating the color of Jesus being white. But then when black folks take Jesus and make him a black man, then all of a sudden it's a problem. So you can't talk about let's not focus on race, where race is still an ever learning problem. If white Christians would more or less talk about race and the impact of race like Dr. Billy Graham did, then we will have these conversations. But see, a lot of white Christians want to get up and talk about, what a friend we have in Jesus. And the Bible said, Paul said, we all are one in Christ, and God doesn't look at race. God doesn't see race because there is no such thing as race. Race is a construct. The scripture said in the book of Acts, from one blood that all people come. All people came from one blood. And I will argue that the original people were people of color. The original humans were brown people, which probably looked like folks from Northeast Africa. They were black people or people of color. But we know historically black people have been discriminated. It may not be as much as it is now, maybe it's more covert, but to say, let's focus on Christian brotherhood and not focus on race is highly ignorant because racism is sin. Dr. Frederick Price talked about racism and the lack of white Christians many times to call out racism like it should. If those white Christians would do like the Quakers and the Puritans and more or less call it out, then there would be a unity of brotherhood. Jesus said before he went back to heaven, he said, Father, I wish above all things that you make them one as we are one. Christ doesn't see race because there's no such thing as race. Simon was a black man that helped Christ carry the cross. But sadly, white conservative Christians many times see race. Many times they have black spots. Many times they will not address injustices in accord to race. And therefore, I will argue you are part of the problem, not you, Victor, but many of them are part of the problem instead of being part of the solution. It's easy to sit back in your corner and not talk about it instead of saying it's wrong and calling it out. But see, here's the problem. Many of these white conservative Christians, some of them are cowards, and many of them internalize racial issues because see, same so-called white conservative Christians that say, oh, what a friend we have in Jesus, some of them would never allow their sons and daughters to be with black people. So, it's easy to talk about, let's focus on Christ when we are all the children of God. We're the children of God by the mandates of Jesus Christ, but it's not always actualized in the world. That's why Jesus said, I wish above all things that you make them one as we are one. Will that happen or come into fruition at some point? Yes. Are Christians beginning to come together in the universality of brotherhood? Yes, due to persecution. But that's not a lived out manifestation, because that was the case then. Why is there still segregation? Are there white churches and they're inclusive of black people? Yes. But you don't see a lot of these white churches where they allow the black people, the black men or the black women the same power as they do the white parishioners. They want black folks in their churches under their leadership, but they can never follow black people and their talking points. And that's called the unconscious pathology of racism. And until we can talk about that, Doc, we can talk about, oh, what a friend we have in Jesus. It ain't gonna matter. It's time, Doc, that people like you and I and other black folks and other white Christians that understand the mandates of Jesus Christ call out the hypocrisy and still are hiding behind avatars and not doing anything about it. I don't mind talking about it, but we cannot minimize what Dr. King said, whether you agree with everything Dr. King said or not. The most segregated day is in churches across America. Am I talking right or wrong? Am I right or wrong, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. Well, maybe I'd say at this point, maybe it's not due to segregation, which would be a legal construct, but there clearly is a separation. And let me say this too. So we're supposed to be brothers. We're supposed to be, friends and brothers and like this, and God doesn't, brotherhood and all like this. Well, right. If I am your brother and I'm telling you, this is the experience that I have of the world.
Right.
That black people are having of the world.
Yes, sir.
For you not to address it and for you to try to act like it's a non-issue. And really the issue is that I need to renew my mind and basically don't believe my, not to believe my lion eyes, my lion ears, my lion experience, my lion lived experience, the lion lived experience of people that are in my community, of my family members, and see, that's the problem. That's the problem with that, because you don't experience, the deficit or the downside of racism. Other people do experience. If they are your brothers, then you'd be concerned about it.
Yes, sir. Excellent. I like that.
And then the last thing I'll say about this is, I don't actually have an issue with people worshiping separately, as it were, quote unquote.
Right.
That's how the church was. It was always based on whatever the location was, and so people would tend to speak the same language, look the same, be from the same communities. It actually fostered a sort of community expression of their faith, which was so that would actually dominate the value system of the culture, the value of the church and their local church. So I actually don't see an issue with that, but I do see an issue with a lack of access for people. I ought to be able to go wherever I want to go. I ought to be able to do whatever I want to do. You ought to be able to go wherever you want to do and do what you want to do, to the extent that you're following the laws, right? So that's a different matter. And I'm not totally convinced that we've totally gotten there.
Right.
So anyhow, that's my sentiment.
Okay, all right, hold tight. Shout out to my man, Gregory Scotland. Gregory said, salute Kosher and Dr. Thunder. Media Man did a great job with his recent statistics showing many claims against black men don't add up, yet black conservatives still hold to these false narratives. And I agree with that. Dr. Thunder and I are just trying to have a conversation looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of Charlie Kirk. Now, we're going to look at also some bad that many assigned against Charlie Kirk that I didn't agree with. Because I'm looking at all angles. I think when you look at a person, you need to look at that person from all angles. So let's listen to what this sister said, Doc. You tell me what's your take. Because, like I said, I used to listen to Charlie. I listened to Charlie Kirk. I like a lot of things that Charlie Kirk stood for. I think he did a lot of good, but he was ignorant in some areas as well. And ignorant means he just didn't know, or he was being willfully ignorant.
A little bit different video than I normally drop, but y'all listen very, very closely. Come. Let me tell you something. I have
I don't know
finally
if you have the
figured
right
out
window up
who
because the
this
video is
Charlie Kirk.
frozen.
It's frozen?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's the right thing, and it's a white lady in the video.
Okay, all right, hold tight. Can you see it? You see it, Doc?
I can see it now.
All right, hold on.
Kirk person is. Okay, this is gonna be a little bit different video than I normally drop, but y'all listen very, very closely. Come. Let me tell you something. I have finally figured out who this Charlie Kirk person is. I've been hearing people like texting me, people sending me videos that I ain't had time to look at or nothing like that. So I finally went and did my own research because I don't really be on social, be honest with you, I post social media, but I don't really be on social media like that. So I finally went and did my research on Charlie Kirk. So as I go through my TikTok, I look at videos, people posting controversial. People have even started to attack some creators because they actually were saying certain things about Charlie Kirk. And I'm going to tell y'all my opinion. And if you're sensitive, you might want to leave my platform because my social media is not called Real Talk with Tisha for nothing. Y'all say y'all want real talk. Y'all say y'all want people to keep it real. But when it definitely comes down to being real, a lot of us don't want that real. You know what I'm saying? So let me tell you this right here. A year ago or 2 years ago, whenever it was, when Donald Trump was campaigning, I was one of the creators that said that I was glad that Donald Trump was going to be getting into presidency. I said a lot of things about Donald Trump. I said I do not vote for Kamala Harris and all that. I was attacked all over social media. They talked about my accent, told me I need to get educated. Called me all kind of H words and N words and everything else. But at the end of the day, I got respect for people that stand on what they believe. I'm gonna tell you something. You can call people raccoons. You can call them whatever they want to do. You can put dancing raccoon. But one thing I know for sure, I got a lot of respect for people that stand on what they believe in.
I agree.
Because you don't got the balls to speak on social media. Some of y'all don't even got a profile picture. Some of y'all can't even say anything in public. But you can't go against the grain on anything because y'all are a yes woman.
Yes.
Y'all are a yes man. And I got respect for people that stand in what they believe. I got a lot of respect for Donald Trump because Donald Trump don't cut it. He don't give a fuck what you say, whether you like it. He stand on what he is and he say what he is. You can't do that though. You can't be who you is. You got to follow the crowd. You got to say what people will appease to. Well, a lot of time when people I feel things, but you ain't got to say everything you feel. No, that's why your hair falling out. That's why you gray. That's why you taking pills to help you sleep at night because you can't be expressive like most people.
Right.
I got some people that I follow on the other side of social media that I actually look up to. Candace Owens is one of them. I got Candace Owens. She is one of the women. Keita Rose. Women like that, a lot of people say, oh, they got a loud mouth. They'll say anything. They ain't got no filter. Now, I got a lot of respect for motherfuckers that stand on what they believe in. Because one thing I do, I got to respect a person that stand on what they believe in. Because some of y'all ain't got the balls to do anything. Y'all get in here, y'all run with the grain on everything. Y'all, if y'all don't care what the majority is running for, whatever the motherfucking majority is, you gonna go for it because you are follow the leader, son of a SOBs, and I can't cuss like I used to. Y'all are follow the leaders. That's all you are. You would love to be a leader, but you ain't got it down in you to be a leader. So stop judging people and not liking people. And a lot of time what these people saying is absolutely true. Stop blaming people because the black community ain't getting where they need to be. Look around you. You're destroying each other. You're killing each other. You tear each other down. Ain't no white man fault. It ain't nobody's fault that you can't make it because you've been in the project for 17 years. Stop using the race card and get up off your ass and try to do something. You can't, I'm telling you, some of that stuff is the God honest truth. Some of y'all immigrants come here and you do want to lay back. You want that word to take care of you. What Donald Trump's saying is true. It is what it is. Some of this shit is true, but you just.
All right, so Doc, I agree with what some of Tisha's saying. Some of the things she said is true. Some of the things she said is true, because Charlie Kirk did have the courage to speak his conviction, unlike a lot of folks that hide behind masks or hide behind avatars. Like, it takes a lot of conviction, Doc, for you and I to do this. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm gonna say what I want to say. I'm not a yes man. I never have been a yes man. That's why I've lost so many jobs. Not because I did no wrong, but I'm gonna speak truth to power. And so, but Charlie Kirk also lost his life. Now, what points are her talking points did you agree with? What parts did you disagree with in regards to Charlie Kirk? What parts did you agree and disagree with, Doc?
So something that I think is interesting. Something I think that's interesting. I mean, when I'm talking to my son, when I'm talking to my close friends, when I talk to family members, when I talk to my students, I sound like a conservative.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, personal responsibility, stop making excuses. You know, ain't nobody else going to do it for you. Stop waiting for a handout.
Right.
Stop waiting for somebody to help you.
Mm-hmm.
This is just you.
Right.
If you don't get it in, ain't nobody else going to get it in for you.
Right.
So I sound that's how I sound. That's the way my dad has been a lifelong Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
That's how my dad sounds. My dad, I think the single most important value that he was able to get me to adopt was no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
No excuses. Nobody gives a crap about your excuses. Nobody gives a crap about your excuses. All they care about is, did you do the stuff that you said you were going to do for them? And or have you been successful or not? You can talk about your challenges after you have arrived. Okay? So I'm totally on that. I've had conversations with my son about homelessness. I tell people frequently, men know that if you don't get it together, you have three things that you are likely going to face: prison, homelessness, and death.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Prison, homelessness, and death. So you can keep making excuses. You can procrastinate. You can keep putting it off. You can make excuses. You can come up with a sob story. All of that kind of, you can try to get away with stuff, but that's what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so so there's something about listening to someone like her that stirs that up in me. But there's a difference between that and you as an individual maximizing your own scenario and doing what's necessary for you to achieve at the highest level, period. And recognizing that the system is not facilitating the same kind of uplift for everyone. See, after I have arrived and I have, look, I'm still grinding. But after you've arrived and you say, look, now, you know what? There were a few things that they shouldn't be the way that they are. They should be changed. Because after all, the way that you measure the success of a system, the effectiveness of a system, is not by evaluating outliers against average people from different communities. It's by comparing average people with average people. And unfortunately, what they do is they say, black folks, you doing just fine. Look, you got a Shaquille O'Neal, you got a Michael Jordan, you got an Oprah, you got a, see, they'll do this, but they won't talk about the average thing. What is the common scenario for people that come from the average environment for their community? That's why the discussion becomes disingenuous, because they're pretending as if all things are equal.
Right.
All things are not equal.
They're not. And then it's a false equation. And listen, I love Tisha. I want to do a show where I like her because she does speak from my heart. And I understand where she's coming from. She is right. There's a segment of black folks that are eternal victims, and they blame the white man for everything. I'm not part of those because I don't believe we should blame white folks for everything. But we got to also be aware that there are white people also that minimize systemic racism, how it's impacted things as well. You and I had to fight hard to get where we got it. Like you said, we had to be twice as good. Doc, I'm 6'5", 6'6". You're probably about 6'2", 6'3". And people don't understand the struggle. Just on our stature alone, I heard people tell me I'm intimidated. Yep. I didn't do anything wrong. When I was in graduate school at UNC, because I didn't use a soft voice. People have told me, Doc, to make my voice softer, to be more accommodating to quote unquote good white folk. Is that right?
Look, man. Look, my supervisor. I'm not going to out him.
Right.
But he was. This is years ago. It would have been a director of the School of Music at the institution I'm at. This is years ago. It's not the current person. It's not the person before that. So this is a while back. Mm-hmm. This dude brought me in his office. He said, ma'am, he says, you got to be careful, not to intimidate people because of your size.
Yep. I've been through the same thing, brother.
Okay. Now this is a white guy. It's a smallish white guy. And I had all kinds of issues with this guy, all kinds of bogus kind of interactions. But yeah, totally. I had one of my same, not the same guy, but occupying the same, position, tell me that, white guy, you're like a son to me. You give me the good boy. Right. And I said, I'm not your son. Right. I'm your colleague.
Right.
And further, and I didn't say this to him, but in further, I think my dad thinks he did a plenty good job.
Right.
Okay. No, ain't no father absence here, Junior. Right. So yeah, all of that kind of stuff is just totally all of that cultural stuff. And they, and goodness.
Man, listen, man.
Profiled in front of my office.
Right. When I was in graduate school, they told me, my professor, she was a black woman. She said, listen, they just going to be intimidated by you with you, but just by default. I heard people tell me, you don't look like a therapist. I'm like, well, what is a therapist supposed to look like? Because, they want this, soft, spindly white person with glasses hanging off their nose. They're not used to masculine, educated black men. And let me tell you something. A lot of these so-called white folks, some of them, they say work hard and get it by the bootstraps, but you don't want that because it's contradicted to history. When black people did come together, when the Dr. Thunders of the world came together, when the coaches of the world came together, and when we did try to manifest the way other men manifest, the white warlock never wanted to have anything to do with it because they're intimidated. There's a percentage, and I'm not saying all white people, there's a percentage of white people, white liberals and white conservatives, that are intimidated by educated, perfunctory black men that exude confidence. I've been marginalized many times because They couldn't put me in the box. We don't, like they said, what are we going to do with Jesus? Crucify him. Well, when they saw me, what are we going to do with this big black Negro? Crucify him because he don't fit in the box. And every time they try to put me in the box, Dr. Dunn, I was like Rick James on the guitar saying, Boston now. Every time you try to put me in the box, I'm gonna bust out because you're not going to put me in your white box. The black women or whoever, because some of my biggest, the hurlers are hurt has been by black women. And I'm sure you've experienced that sometime. It ain't always the white man. Sometimes it's been black women that's been my emissaries as well. Shout out to my man, Revelated Spirit of Indifference. He said, sure, chick, if I was being funded and didn't have to worry about 9 to 5, I could say whatever I want to say too. Now, Doc, this is the ugly of Charlie Kirk, the radical left. We talked about conservatives because we're going to be fair. But let's look at the white liberals that celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. And these are the parts that we don't agree with.
Its value for life. When we trade truth for narratives and discernment for conspiracy. And what happens when, in the name of fixing the problem, we end up swinging the pendulum so far that our so-called solutions become part of the very danger. The culture of death is being normalized. Conspiracy-minded individuals who are driven by clicks and money are blinding many. And reactionary laws and policies could bring consequences just as destructive as the issues they claim to solve. What are believers in Christ supposed to do to combat both the culture of death and that of conspiracy without negating the truth of events and, more importantly, Scripture?
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
We think that Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Hey, ooh, ah, ooh.
I would say pour one out for Kirky boy, but I don't waste good beer on little.
Charlie Kirk just got put down like a dog in Utah, and I could not be happier.
I will not ever feel bad when bad people get what the they deserve.
CK got AK'd, and he's gone.
We got Charlie in the neck. We got Charlie in the neck.
Shot.
I want to dedicate this next one to an absolute piece of shit of a human being. The pronouns was, were. Because if you take, you will get banned. Rest in Charlie Kirk, a piece of
about a love-torn child, a kid. This is probably his first real relationship, and somebody was disparaging the person that he loved. He sat on that building for 30 minutes before he took the shot. Why did he wait until the first word trans came up? Then he took the shot.
You think he heard it? He could hear it?
I think he could hear it. I think he also, I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally.
Guys, the evidence here is overwhelming. He said, Charlie Kirk, I can't stand this hate anymore. I'm going to take him out. The testimony from him and the statements of his family, he had become more left-wing. He etched the statements that are made by the left about Republicans and conservatives and Charlie Kirk fascists on the bullet casings.
He made a joke about it in his last text.
Well, it doesn't sound like a joke to me because someone's dead and about to be buried.
Well,
so it doesn't sound like a joke to me.
I mean,
So I'm just telling you, there was an effort all weekend long on the left to try to make this guy sound like he was a conservative. That failed. That was passed around all over the weekend. That has now failed. The evidence has now come out. He was motivated by hate. He was motivated by left-wing radicalism. He got mixed up with some trans ideology in his life. We'll learn more about that, I'm sure, when more evidence and testimony comes out. We are looking around the edges of this for something other than what's staring us in the face. Left-wing radicalism got this kid. He went up to a roof and he murdered our friend, and that's what happened.
There is nothing.
All right, so the white liberal, Doc, it's dangerous. You can say what you want to say about white conservatives. I will roll with the white conservative more so than I will with the white liberal, because at least with some white conservatives, I don't want to judge all white conservatives and say they're that way, but at least with some white conservatives, you know what you're dealing with. Malcolm X said it himself, that the white liberal is worse or more dangerous than the wolf in being the white conservative. What's your take on that, and also the dangers of white liberalism? Because all this stuff the white liberals are pushing, from radical feminism. Because see, watch this, Doc. Black folks were still good in Jim Crow racism. I'm not saying it was right, but we still were more intact. We still held on to traditional values. We still had traditional mores. We still had an abiding love in God. We still were more unified, and we had family. But it was the advent of the Lyndon B. Johnson administration, white liberalism in the form of feminism, where black women joined forces with white women, and things have begun to go precipitously downhill ever since. What's your take on that, brother? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's been look, again, you've got racists on both sides.
On both sides, right.
It's
on both sides, right.
There's different ways that their racism is expressed. And something that I have noted is that when you try to have the race conversation, and if it's in the form of black men, black male uplift, even if you dare to talk about anything black excellence oriented, neither Republicans nor Democrats are willing to actually have the real conversation.
Right.
Republicans, they start on their bootstrap bro pathology. You know, y'all are lazy, you don't want to work, you know, pull up harder on your bootstraps, all this kind of stuff. And the left, what the left does is they say, but what about black women? And it's not because they want to help black women. It's not because they care about black women. It's because if they bring that up, then they know that historically that has been effective with respect to kicking the can down the road. Okay. So that's where we're at. That's the environment that we're in. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Neither do I.
And so you have to you have to choose your friends carefully. You have to keep a close eye on your enemies, and you have to understand that for black men, though some seem like friends, they're probably more akin to an enemy than a friend.
I totally agree, man. I totally agree. Gregory Scholar said both of you are engaging in intelligent conversation. It used to get really irritating with pure pill channels who would claim that no red pill podcasters offer any insightful dialogue or solutions. And shout out to Gregory Scholar, as he's the #1 sponsor of the stream. And of course, people gonna say, you know, this person said, guys, we tripping, and he left. And see, that's the problem with the white conservative. They haven't heard what you and I said many times about exonerating Charlie Kirk and talking about the good. We're looking at this thing objectively and balanced. But the white conservative can't hear what, I'm going to assume this person is conservative, what we're talking about, and neither can the white liberal. So basically, black men, especially conscientious black men like yourself and I, we're in no man's land. Because you can't appeal to nobody without having to tap dance for all. So let's finish listening to what these crazy libertarians are saying, because once again, Doc, I repudiate the people that laughed at Charlie Kirk. I don't believe in it, and I'm sure you don't believe in it as well. So let's finish listening to this whole time.
Can do now. I am targeted in a witch hunt.
Did I realize that what I was saying in that video was going to lead to this?
And they're making an example of me. They're doxing me.
Was fired on Friday. Apparently I was doxed.
All I did was say some words.
You can't just fire somebody for political purposes.
That somebody would be that malicious to do that to me. And I think it's somebody that works in the office.
This is day 1 of unemployment.
I don't understand why this man is regarded as like a fucking god. That baffles me.
What did I do other than say something that hurt your feelings?
Because they just have such different political beliefs from me.
Evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination
have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. They should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. All of us will refuse to let that happen. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it. It will become stronger, bolder, louder, and greater than ever. My husband's mission will not end, not even for a moment. And one of Charlie's greatest talents was his ability, this phenomenal ability to choose great people to follow him.
A publication in the US claimed to have...
Doc, what's your take on these white liberals? Because they are horrible in my opinion. And even though one person killed Charlie Kirk, there was a growing sentiment with people mocking that man's death, white liberals mocking him, and they fueled the hate. They helped fuel and push the hate of Charlie Kirk. Once again, you didn't have to agree with all his talking points. But see, the problem I have with white liberals, Doc, is this. They're worse in my opinion. They talk about tolerance, but they are not tolerant themselves. They talk about understanding black people and black issues, but they don't understand black issues or care to understand black issues unless it's under an umbrella of white liberalism. The civil rights movement was hijacked by white liberals, the alphabet mafia, and many, many, many others. Every time black excellence began to rise, it was sabotaged by white liberals and their own issues that were not necessarily germane to our issues. What would you say about that, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, celebrating someone's demise, laughing, poking fun at you do realize that you're gonna die, right?
Gonna die, yes, sir.
Everybody is going to die. So this is a particularly strange exercise. You're not only mocking his death, but you're mocking your own because you're going to die.
Yes.
Okay. And you were talking about where, they pretend that they're tolerant and this kind of thing, but and this sentiment, only God can judge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then they're the most judgmental.
They're the most judgmental. Yes. They're the most judgmental.
They're the most judgmental. Because the thing is that in my evaluation, in my critique, I'm never talking about people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about behaviors.
You're talking about behaviors. Yes, sir. I totally agree.
Right? Right? I love the sinner. I hate the sinner,
mm-hmm.
but I love the sinner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I hate the sin, but I love the sinner.
Mm-hmm.
They hate people. They flat out just hate people.
Right.
It's not even about behavior. Oh, you said something I don't like. I think that you're, a party to whatever this a position or opinion. And so I can hate you. I can call for your execution. I can trivialize your demise. I can dance on your grave.
Mm-hmm.
Look, man. And you want to talk about juvenile, being immature, being, you have a lot of folks from on the left talking about being self-actualized, being your best self. That is not your best self.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what you call self-actualization. That is not knowing thyself. That's not being true to yourself. It's not being empathetic, right? It's not being loving of all people. It's not being inclusive. It's not being any of the list of values that you claim.
Right.
That you claim. It is none of that.
Right.
It is hyper judgmental.
Right.
It looks juvenile.
Right.
It looks and it is maybe the lowest possible expression of humanity.
It's the lowest expression. To mock that man and to mock his death and to mock it when he got deleted in front of his babies. It's the highest paragon of evil. But you know what I also find out also, Doc? You don't have to like white conservatives or black conservatives or whatever, but at least when crime happens, they're not tearing down buildings, they're not burning infrastructures, and they're not trying to delete folks. Many conservatives after the death of Charlie Kirk have been very peaceful. Would you not agree? They haven't hurt nobody. They're not burning down cities. But conversely, with white liberals many times, it's totally different. And I will argue once again that the white liberal is the cancer to America. You don't have to agree with all conservatism because they have their issues too. But I can deal with the wolf that I know versus the white conservative and the white liberal that'll stab you in the back. Shout out to my man, James C. for NC. He said, I'm a true loner when it comes down to the current social and political climate. All of my closest friends and family members are all slandering and celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, meanwhile a good portion of what he said was not wrong. And I agree with that. You had to agree with all his talking points, but some of the things he said was not wrong. Brother Darkness said, what's amazing to me is that Republicans seem to say LGBTQ is a liberal construct, but forget to mention openly LGBTQ Republicans like Caitlyn Jenner or George Santos. It's hypocrisy in real time. That's true. That is true. What's your take on that, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, you had the so-called log cabin Republicans, and let me tell you, there was also, and this was on the left. You remember Blue Dog Democrats, which were pro-life Democrats, pro-family Democrats. I mean, I don't remember the next time or the last time I saw a Blue Dog Democrat sighting. Right. That party has totally gotten rid of anything that sounds like, pro-life, pro-family. Yeah, I agree. That's why I said, man, if take the white conservative for what he is, but at least his views celebrate life, family, community, even if it's not inclusionary. Because see, a lot of white conservatives believe in white nationalism too. I call it the far alt-right, like the Nick Fuentes's and the Myron Gaines of the world. They believe in white nationalism, but also believe in Christian nationalism. And see, white exceptionalism, Doc, says that everybody except white folks, nobody else was great. Except white folks, there would be no America. Except white folks, America could never operate because black people are always seen the lens of being inferior. Right. What's your take on that? Yeah, I mean, there's actually a lot of issues with that. I'd argue that the, WASP, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, in collaboration with Black Americans, is what has made this country what it is. It's the combination, the mixing of those cultures, the values of those cultures. It's the free labor that the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants got from slaves. It's the combination and the collaboration between those two that I think are most responsible for our form of government. Mm-hmm. But having said that, this idea that we can do no wrong, that a certain demographic can do no wrong, and that they are the primary thing about this country that's great, or any of that kind of stuff. I think that's a problem. Now I draw a line, and the reason I drew the line, I'd say there's three communities most responsible for America: Native Americans, because we're on their land,
right?
The white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, and Black Americans. So it's these three communities, and it's interesting because a lot of this dialogue about how America is a melting pot and what makes it great and stuff is people come from all these other places and these different value systems. Well, historically, to the extent that the value system, in particular, the WASP value system and the Black American value system have been centered, America has gone up, thrived. To the extent that there are some of these other interests that have sort of supplanted that you've started to see a significant decline. And yes, it's been a place for immigrants, it's been a place for X, Y, and Z, but the immigrants that came here always adopted that value system,
right?
Of that American value system. We're starting to see something different now, and we're starting to see, primarily coming from the left, a sort of encouragement for them not to actually adapt to the value system of this place.
Right.
And look, I have an inheritance. My inheritance is here in the United States,
right?
Because my family, the people that died, the people that were slaves, blood, sweat, and tears, I have just as much a birthright to this place is any white Anglo-Saxon Protestant does.
Right. Yes.
Right. We have a shared history. It is it's a challenging history. It's a complicated history. But look, as long as we're able to continue to have conversations, and the folks that would literally celebrate the demise of their political enemies, dancing on their graves and stuff like that, to the extent that we can push that to the background, and we can still engage in conversation, disagree passionately, have completely different perspectives, maybe can't understand how somebody could come to that conclusion at all, but we also don't take it to mean that person, that their perspective is evidence of a moral failing, that they are a terrible person because they have a different value system than you do. As long as we can keep that going, an environment where ideas, people can separate personalities from ideas, people from ideas, then I think that we have a chance. But to the extent that we fully embrace the darkness in this, it's definitely an export of tribalism.
Oh yeah. Definitely export of tribalism. I agree. And Doc, I don't see it getting in the belly. This is the last part, and I'm gonna let you go, Doc. It's been powerful, man. I really enjoy your insight. You've done a great job. Occultic feminism and witchcraft. In under 2 minutes, what do you know about occultic feminism, Doc, and witchcraft? Because as someone said, it is definitely the Jezebel spirit. Jezebel is a gender neutral spirit, but regardless of what you think about Charlie Kirk, as I said, he did not deserve to lose his life. Those that laughed at Charlie Kirk are under, in my opinion, many of them demonic influence. I would say that some of them are slightly possessed. I do believe that the spirit world is actually more realer than the physical world. In the clinical world, we talk about something called the phenomenological argument. That position more or less posits that there are phenomena outside of materialism, which is science, and collaborative empiricism that cannot be measured with instruments or psychometrics or whatever. I think Dr. Robert Gallagher, he's a famous Harvard-trained or Princeton-trained psychiatrist, said that there are minimal cases or some cases where he's seeing real demonic possession. And so I believe, Doc, as we get closer to the coming of Jesus Christ, I really believe this, that it's going to increase. But it's not only so bad, Doc, these people are practicing witchcraft. And so let's look at this real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I forgot to ask you. What's your take on? I apologize. I'm jumping ahead of myself. What's your take on occultism, dog, and witchcraft? What's your take on? I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Occultic feminism.
Rachel Wilson wrote a good book on the topic called Occult Feminism. And she basically traced the roots of feminism back to what I'll call proto-feminists.
Mm-hmm.
And these proto-feminists were like tarot card, dark lit room with a cauldron,
Mm-hmm.
Crystals, was astrology, they were heavy into that. They were witches, self-identified as witches. Their desire was to dethrone God.
Mm-hmm.
They had a desire to overthrow any sort of patriarchy. And the Ford Foundation and the Rockefellers came in and astroturfed this movement to make it appear much more palatable. And so most of the leaders of this so-called feminist movement, they are the sort of more sanitized, more palatable for, general public, that kind of a thing, a version of this. But it is, it's demonic. It's demonically inspired. There's a reason why there seems to be a disproportionate ire against Christianity, which I believe they see as being more or less the most pure expression of the patriarchy. So there's a reason for that. But yeah, I think all of that stuff is tied together. I talk about the natural order, God over man, man over wife, wife over children. Catholics talk about natural law, same sort of idea, ordered society. Even if you boil things all the way down to what I regard proto-marriage, if you break that woman's hymen, that's your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Even in a context that is that simple, outside of ceremony, outside of developed society, you're still going to have this natural order emerge, because there still will be the expectation for the man who is more physically able, can endure in the weather longer, and does not himself get pregnant, but rather can be there to assist when the woman is pregnant, when she's nursing. So you still have this sort of natural order expressing itself outside, even if you don't have a sort of organized religion or organized religious context for it. So this is something that's why I say that this is naturally occurring. So even without, even if you regard religion as man-made, even if you regard it as whatever, religion being the problem or whatever you want to say, it's still the case that the natural order, this natural law, is still there. It's still there. It's written in the very genetic code. Evolutionary biology even presents this as biological fact, but they don't like that, and it's a sort of a rebelling against all things natural. Yeah, you got to turn your mic on.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Yeah, it's the spirit of love. Let's finish looking at this and we're going to end it, man. You've done an awesome job. I really appreciate your insight and your commentary. Hold tight.
And one of Charlie's greatest talents was his ability this phenomenal ability to choose great people to follow him.
A publication in the US claimed to have paid Etsy witches to cast a curse on Charlie Kirk, who has since died after being shot in the neck during a campus event at Utah Valley University. Media organization Jezebel describes itself as an alternative traditional women's publication, published an article titled "We Paid Some Etsy Witches to Curse Charlie Kirk." Just 2 days later, 31-year-old Kirk died after he was shot while reportedly discussing transgender mass shootings to a crowd. The article does make it clear that they didn't wish for grave or dark forces to cause him harm, rather they hoped he would be inconvenienced by regular zits, malfunctioning microphones and clothes that didn't fit him, not death. Since the shooting, Jezebel amended the article with an editor's note, which read, "This story was published on September 8th. Jezebel condemns the shooting of Charlie Kirk in the strongest possible terms. We do not endorse, encourage, or excuse political violence of any kind."
2 days before the assassination of Charlie Kirk on September 8th, an organization published an article. In the article, the woman who wrote it and who represented the organization reveals and boasts that she actually paid witches to place a spell, a curse, on the life of Charlie Kirk. The author writes that it would be, quote, unethical to, quote, let him keep talking. In other words, he would have to be silenced. Charlie Kirk would be shot down in the act of talking, in conversation. The witch cast the spell, a curse on his life. The witch told her then, quote, I just completed your spell and it was successful. She then told her that she would see results within a few weeks. The woman approached more than one witch, apparently, for the placing of the curse. One of the witches, to whom the woman writer calls a priestess. She placed a curse on Charlie Kirk and showed her the element of the ritual. What did it involve? She showed her it involved a photograph of Charlie Kirk set on fire. The woman saw the photograph, flames with its edges curving inward, engulfing Charlie Kirk's face.
I don't give a fuck about Charlie Kirk dying. No, I don't give a fuck about his Nazi wife not having a Nazi husband anymore.
You guys are just so horrible. He was shot in front of his 2 kids. He was a father.
So was Osama bin Laden.
Above all, he was a father and a person. I don't give a fuck. Like, he was literally the devil. He was the devil sent from hell.
His children are not in a worse position now.
I'm not celebrating his death, but I don't care. He was a Nazi. I don't care that he died.
There was somebody affected by his hate speech every fucking
Yes, sir.
day that went by.
Go ahead, brother. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I think I know that last person, the woman.
Oh, really?
The last woman.
Some of the heavy set.
Yeah, she
is she a woman? She looks trans to me. He looks trans.
Well, let me go back to it again, and let me let me make sure that I'm speaking correctly.
Okay, hold tight.
Conversation. The witch that it would be, quote, calls a
sent from hell.
His children are
edges curving inward, engulfing Charlie Kirk's face.
I don't give a fuck about Charlie Kirk dying. No, I don't give a fuck about his Nazi wife not having a Nazi husband anymore.
You guys are just so horrible. He was shot in front of his 2 kids. He was a father.
So was Osama bin Laden.
Above all, he was a father and a person. I don't give a fuck. Like, he was literally the devil. He was the devil sent from hell.
His children are not in a worse position now.
I'm not celebrating.
Wait, stop right there.
Right. I think that's a dude, man.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure, but it looks like a dude to me with a wig on. You remember that song called "Dude Looks Like a Lady"?
Yeah. Play it a little bit more.
Okay, all right.
His death, but I don't care. He was a Nazi. I don't care that he died.
Okay, so maybe not. It might not. So, okay. So I'm actually glad to know it's not who I thought it was.
Okay. All right. I'm a finish.
Was somebody affected by his hate speech every fucking day that went by? Multiple people a day, I can fucking guarantee you.
And if you think all Charlie Kirk did was say words and never harmed anyone, then you can't see the harm because you're too blind to it. Anyways, I'm going to a fucking barbecue to celebrate.
For me calling out who Charlie Kirk was, which was someone with neo-Nazi beliefs,
and statements is celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, then so be it. Because that's who the fuck he was. He was a neo-Nazi.
Above all, he was a good man. No, he wasn't. He was the definition of an evil motherfucker. Like, yes, I'm glad he's dead. Oh no, lock me up. Arrest me. Like, he is the devil. I'm glad he's dead.
I'm happy that cocksucker's dead. Yes, on record. I'm happy that cocksucker's dead.
Fuck your homie dead. Fuck your homie dead. Fuck your homie dead. Most of the ass got hit in the head.
I'm not wrong for not feeling sad about a fucking Nazi dying. I'm glad he's gone. I'm happy about it.
I'm not a bad person for not caring about the death of a Nazi.
I've been saying we need to bring back political assassinations. I don't feel bad, and I don't think that everyone deserves the right to free speech. I think some people should be afraid to express their opinion in public.
And if you don't understand the difference between righteous response to systemic violence and violence itself, you need to shut the fuck up right now.
A lot of really bad things are going to happen to a lot of really bad people if we want to have a better world and an actual future for the human race. So either get on board or get out of the way.
Kill them. Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
I don't care that he was a father. Being a father doesn't absolve you from everything that you've ever done. Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Many more to fucking come, hopefully.
Thoughts and prayers, though.
All right, Doc. The white liberal is worse. You can say what you want to say about white conservatives, but you don't see white conservatives doing that. Not spewing that kind of hatred, man. That's demonic, Doc, at a high level. These libertarians are doing some high level demonic stuff. What's your take on that, Doc? We're going to end it after your commentary. Go ahead. You're muted. You're muted, Doc. Unmute yourself. There you go. Go ahead, brother. Yes, sir.
And let me say again that not all white liberals are created equally.
That's true. Fair enough. I'm talking about the radical ones. Yeah. These are more radical. These are radical.
These are clearly more on the radical side.
Right.
But still I take your point to be true. I don't see a lot of folks on even the political right on this kind of like celebrating people's demise and stuff like that.
It's demonic, man. It is the example of Lucifer, having the spirit of Lucifer, man. Say what you want to say about Charlie Kirk. This is demonic, man. It's demonic. I don't know if you saw that man that took the lives of those babies in Minneapolis. Did you see that? How he was, his voice kept vacillating back and forth.
Yeah, I played some video that he had released prior to this. He was reading what was it? A dryer, like a washer and a dryer, like for clothes. Mm-hmm. He read a dryer manual cover to cover. Mm-hmm. That was the video.
Oh, wow.
Sitting there with the manual and read the thing cover to cover. That was the video.
Mm.
I'm just saying, look, I didn't know that there was a burgeoning, reading a dryer manual on YouTube. I didn't know that was like a thing, but I mean, something's got to be wrong. Something's got to be wrong with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shout out to my man Greg Muscala. He's the #1 sponsor of the stream. Hold tight. Let me read his super chat real quick. Hold on. He's the #1 sponsor of the stream. He said, Austin Holloman thinks it's going to be a civil war in the United States. Very interesting take. I can see that, Doc. What's your take on it? I think there might be a civil war because there are some men that are saying, some white men are getting sick of it. They were even proclaiming in a song about there is a group of white men that are going to start causing damage. I forgot the song they were singing. I saw it on TikTok. But what's your take on a civil war ensuing, man? Because the Bible said that lawlessness would increase in the last days, and we're beginning to see it at an all-time high. So go ahead, brother.
Okay, so I'm gonna say two things. So the first thing is, yeah, we're definitely seeing more lawlessness. We're seeing more like belligerent, don't care that I'm wrong, still shouted, just be loud and wrong. We're seeing more of that kind of stuff. That kind of behavior. I don't know how close actually to a civil war we are, but I do know that we're at a sort of state of unrest with a lot of this stuff, and we've had some sort of little explosions, and it makes you wonder when the big one's going to happen.
Right.
So I'll say that. And then the last thing I'll say is, now, if you read Apostle Paul, read the Bible and his writings, you'll know that Apostle Paul believed that Jesus would return in his lifetime.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one thing happened to me when something that occurred to me, or something that changed in my perspective or my view,
right,
is when I realized that he believed that it would be in his lifetime.
Yes, sir. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And he saw certain signals and signs in his lifetime.
Right.
It made me realize that it's likely that we could be a lot further away than it seems.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. But here's where I would challenge you respectfully as my brother. There's a concept called convergence principle. And you're right. The scripture said in the book of Peter that one day to God is like 1,000 years. And then the Bible said that mockers and scoffers will come and say, where is the coming? You guys been more or less parenthetically have been saying Jesus is coming back, and he hasn't come. Here's where I would challenge that, Doc, in a good way, as my brother. Exponentially, things have begun to change. In the book of Daniel, he said knowledge will go to and fro. Technology is increasing exponentially. Yep. And I believe that we're in the latter part of the last days. You're correct. Paul did think it was going to happen in his lifetime. But we are heading towards a cataclysm, in my opinion, that's unlike anything in human history. I've had a conversation with my father, and my dad is 83 years old. And listen, we know that lawlessness has happened in pockets, from the Civil Wars to the Revolutionary War to Jim Crow racism, to all the different world wars, to different factions of lawlessness has always happened. But never have lawlessness become encapsulated simultaneously at one time, being pushed out by the media. Some will argue, well, it's because the media keeps showing negative stuff. Well, I think that's another myth. The media can't report what's not there. Now, one could argue that the media tend to focus on bad stuff instead of focusing on good. That's fine. But you have ardent agnostics and atheists that saying something is off in the world. I don't know if you heard about Doc recently. One of the signs that some theologians believe that will lead up to the coming of Christ is that aliens are going to come on the scene. And these aliens are going to say that we were seated here. And that God had to remove. I know some people don't believe in the rapture, pre-trib rapture. I know you're not different than that, but that's fine. I know you believe in the mid-trib. You still believe in it. But they believe that aliens are going to take the bad folks out of this world, like you and I. You and I are the bad seeds. They're going to put in new seeds. And then we're going to have what's called the Age of Enlightenment, or the Age of Aquarius. But did you hear the story, Doc, of it's being seen in Congress, where UFO phenomenon is not only increasing, it's been verified in the Senate and also in the Congress. And lawmakers are wondering, why have they made this stuff public? Now, what many believe is that the rapture will take place. These aliens will come down at some point and say Jesus was just an ascended master, like in many others, which is Luciferian, by the way. And then we're going to begin to see what's called the reign of the Antichrist. Now, whether it happened in that cycle or not, they saw an unidentified flying object. It got hit with a high-end missile. And guess what happened, Doc? It bounced off the UFO. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about that particular thing that you're talking about, but I do this show with
Sons of Thunder, your brother. I know what you're talking about. Right.
God Rules.
God Rules, right?
Right. It's one of my best friends from growing up, Tony from God Rules. It's called Two Dads React, and we have covered a bunch of weird stuff that's happening. I am very much aware of how much strange stuff is going on right now in an unprecedented fashion. We can start talking about AI. I think AI is going to have a role in certain things, even if you just sort of track AI as in look at like the Terminator movies, this sense of AI achieving awareness. There's a lot of these sort of things. It's like there's a lot of things converging at the same time.
There you go, converging at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm not suggesting that we're not in the last days. I
understand what you're saying. I know. Right. Right.
I'm just saying that it seems to be the most important thing for us is what does it say? Be sober, be vigilant.
Right.
Where your adversary, the devil, walks about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour.
Yes.
Be aware of what's going on, to be sober-minded, and to be ready.
Yes. Well, the sentiment has always been, "Come, Lord Jesus, come quickly." And listen, I do believe, Doc, there might be, you got Christians in the Congo being deleted for their faith by radicalized Muslims. But I also believe that remnant Christians that are, trying to live separate, because, in my opinion, or I know it ain't no opinion, you got a remnant church and then you got a worldly church or a compromised church. I would say most church folks that are Christians here in America are compromised. I do believe there's a remnant church that's set aside, they're peculiar, they're different, they're trying to live up to the mandates of Christ, and they're being persecuted because of that, because of their peculiarity. But I do believe we're in the season of the coming of the Messiah. Whether you believe in pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib, or whatever, that's irrelevant to me. But look, Doc, you and I are Gen X, man. The world is crazy now, brother. Yeah, I've never seen the world this bad before, Doc. At least there was a clear delineation, Doc, between genders back then. We won't,
right.
Yeah. In the 90s, Doc, at least we knew a girl was a girl. But now we can't even agree on, Doc, whether or not a girl is a girl. And see, this is something else that theologians said. Because they did not love the truth, guess what? I'm going to send them a strong delusion. When the Antichrist comes on the scene, he's going to deceive many because they don't want the truth. It's so bad now, Doc, you can show people a blueprint of what the truth is, and they still reject the truth. You can show it to them, Doc. I don't know if it was Paul or Jesus said, they say, you hate me because I tell you the truth. And they don't want the truth, Doc.
Yeah.
They don't want the truth, Doc. They don't want the truth. But listen, I love you, man. This was a great show, man. You did an excellent job. See, y'all don't know Dr. Dunn is very analytical, man. He always trying to balance the scales and look at things from about 5 or 12 different angles. Doc will always see things from a panoramic view. And that's why I want him to do the show. And so listen, man, I really appreciate you coming through, being gracious with your time. What'd you get out of this conversation real quick before I let you go, brother? Go ahead.
Oh, no, this is great, man. And I love you too, brother.
Right.
It's strange times that we're living in. Look, like I said before, Charlie said a lot of things I didn't agree with, and I actually reviewed some videos before he passed away addressing some of those issues. The bootstrap bro pathology was strong with him. There was some, I think there was some misinformation, and some propaganda that he was peddling. And I think that propaganda was particularly hurtful of the Black community, but of Black men in particular. And so I saw him and his rhetoric in that sense as being my adversary. I did not see him that aspect of as allying with what it is that I'm trying to do. That being said, I also agreed with a number of things that he said. He was a Christian guy. He was a family guy. He was pro-life. And he was attempting to do it the right way. He didn't have his kids out of wedlock. He was married to this woman. The same woman had both of his kids. He was a knowledgeable guy, very knowledgeable about the Bible. Now we may, have some disagreements as to what the Bible means in certain ways, but he was very knowledgeable. But I think he was wrong. He was 31. I think he had a lot of time to grow. I would sound totally different when I was, if you heard me when I was 31, I sound totally different than I do now. Different things have happened in my life that have caused me to change in certain ways, to change my perspective. And frankly, the birth of my son has caused me to change in very critical ways. So all of that to say, R.I.P. Charlie. I hope that people will take this as a moment to evaluate. Do you really think it is appropriate in an expression of what it is to be a human being, what it is to be inclusive, empathetic, what it is to be inclusive, what it is to be, to put yourself in somebody else's shoes? Do you think it's the best expression of that? And to be non-judgmental, to literally be dancing on his grave.
Yeah, I agree with that profoundly, man. Listen, man, I'm gonna let you go, man. Go ahead and watch the Ohio State University with the T on. We all play today, man.
Actually, I'm not sure who we play, but I'm there. I wasn't sure. I thought we might have had a bye today, but then I was talking to my son, and I don't think so. I think we're playing somebody, so we'll see. I don't think it's Big Ten yet. I don't think we started the season yet.
Right. Well, Chapel Bill got a major test today with UCF, man. So if Chapel Bill can pull that off, man, then we might have a better season than anticipated. But anyway, man, excellent commentary, man. I'm gonna chop this up. If you want to use it to make some videos, brother, feel free to use it. You can take it and you can take some segments, take some clips, and get into, continue to build the algorithm. But I really appreciate you taking the time to do this show. This was a excellent show, well thought out. Took me some time to put it together. The algorithm was friendly to me this time, and I'm forever grateful, man. So I'll see you soon, brother. You take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Be well, brother.
All right, now, peace.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, that's my man, Dr. Thunder. Go subscribe to Dr. Thunder, his YouTube channel. Go check him out. Actually, somebody said they just subscribed to him. So anyway, guys, listen, we're not going to always agree on all things, guys. You can present the evidence and people can still have a very visceral response to whatever. I think I did a great job trying to be fair and balanced in regard to Charlie Kirk. There are going to be some that are going to agree with me and be fair and balanced, and to some they're not going to get it, and that's fine. I'm not here to please people. You can show people the evidence, and some folks will never believe it in the first place. So anyway, we're going to end the stream here, guys. Thank you to everybody that tuned in, guys. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Let's go get the likes up. Go hit the like button, guys. Go feed the algorithm, guys. Get the likes up and feed the algorithm, guys, because a lot of folks are struggling with cognitive dissonance. So get the likes up, guys, and feed the algorithm.
Fire for your mind. Culture clinician.
If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up and young dope them. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues, asking fathers who miss you, mama drama don't kiss you, all a part of the ritual, this is how they get you, separate the men, women, clipping babies, pretend to, damn, lovers, haters, acting like vultures, if it ain't seven, it ain't kosher, if it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us, If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
Are you a victim of brokenness and despair? A broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many times, many of you young men that are listening come from homes that are very toxic and very dysfunctional. And because of that, many of you have deferred your power in many ways to the point it's led over into your social life and many times led over into your relationships. If you guys are dealing with mental health pathologies, conscious and unconscious, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. It's important that you deal with your mental health in order to be a better person for yourself, your loved ones, and also your community. But because mental health is often stigmatized, many of you often suffer in silence. Don't be a victim in silence. And see me once again at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. And male mental health is one of those elements that's paramount to the functioning of a man. Be well.